Okay, is that got us? Okay. All righty. Okay, hopefully we got all of our internet stuff. I got a notice that we were having some sound problems.
I had to restart the YouTube stream. It seems to be back on now. I'm gonna go outside and double check.
Okay. We're still checking with everyone. Please bear with us. We lost the sound. Jeffrey's working on it shortly, which you wouldn't be able to hear me say that. So anyway, now we'll move on to the public input. It's limited to the first hour of this meeting, and in compliance with the Attorney General's office mandate regarding the Open Meetings Act, during COVID-19 state of emergency, the governing body will accept public input via email at irmadevine@ruidoso-nm.gov. Public comments must be submitted prior to 1 p.m. and will be distributed to the governing body members for review. So that's changed from what we used to normally do. And so we're trying to be in compliance, but we do have many pages of comments that have been presented on various items that are on the agenda. And do we have anything, Mrs. Devine, that you need to notate on the public input?
Thank you, Mayor Crawford, members of the governing body. As the mayor has mentioned, you have received a paper copy of an item with black letters on front that specifically says public input. We did receive a handful of email correspondence, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they are all in reference to the traffic plan item that is on your agenda as regular item number 2. They also, if I'm not mistaken, in proofing these, they are all in opposition.
Opposition?
To that. Yes, sir. As you can see, I can read off which ones you have. You have one from Sabor, New Mexico. You also have one from Charlie Skeen. Another one from Robert Maroney. And you have a couple more there. One from Mr. Michael Cheney, and another one from Sherry Turner. And those are the ones that we have received as you read off the instructions by email for this particular meeting.
Okay, and I do know there were considerable others that I had phone conversations with yesterday. And due to our rules of public input, I'm not able to comment on those at this time, but I will comment on when we get to our regular items. So we have passed all these out to all the council members ahead of the meeting. They've had time to review them and read over them. So I assure you that we have looked at them, and then we will be moving through the agenda and have more discussion when we actually see the plan for the Midtown traffic survey, which that's what we're here to do, is see what they came up with. Okay, so we'll move on to, you know what, I have the ability to move this around. So does anybody have any objections for us going ahead and moving to regular items? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, let's move to regular items.
Okay, that way we can, I'm gonna have to make folks wait all day and we can move back. We'll go to regular item number 1 is discussion and possible action on adoption of resolution 2020-33, a resolution adopting the FY 2022-2026 infrastructure capital improvement plan. And that is going to be, is that Sam?
Yes, good afternoon, mayors, member of the councils. I brought forth today a resolution along with our project summary. So I was hoping that you all could give me direction as to the order of priority of the project summary that's submitted to you all.
Okay. and I know that we all spent some time, looking at the, resolutions, for the ICEIP plan. Does anybody have any, comments? Are you still good with the, top 5? That's always really the top 10's the ones that we always really are looking at. But the bridge replacement projects, we still have as number 1. Moon Mountain Recreational Development, number 2. Continuing on with the E911 addressing consolidated dispatch, number 3. Number 4 is the Horton Complex. Number 5 is still workforce housing. We're still working on that. And then we move down through there. Does the council have any questions of Samantha?
Mayor, I do.
Go ahead.
I would like to, recommend or suggest that we move, workforce housing to number 2,
Okay.
and then keep number 1 bridges, number 2 workforce housing, number 3 911, number 4 move up the library, HVAC, get that thing up in there, and then number 5 being the Moon Mountain. That's just my recommendations and thoughts.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that, Rifle. Do we have a concurrence with that ordering?
I'm just looking, where's the library at right now?
I think it's like number 21 or 22. I don't have the sheet right in front of me, but
21.
Public library.
What about the sidewalks?
Remember, we were moving the sidewalks into the top 10?
Mr. Mayor, I believe we were moving broadband, we were exchanging them, correct?
Yes.
Sidewalks, broadband where sidewalks were.
That's true.
Well, broadband's gonna be a push in the legislature this year, I think.
It is?
It's one of the governor's saying, I believe Zach would know better than me.
Okay. Zach Cook, can you hear me all right? Councilor Eby, is Zach Cook with you?
Sorry, we're muted.
Okay. Mr. Cook?
Mayor, what was the question?
The question is, we're still working on our ICIP, and it was brought up, even though we're in the process of working on our fiber. Councilor Cornelius said that it was his understanding that fiber was going to be one of the governor's main pushes in legislative session. Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't heard anything lately about fiber being one of her pet projects lately, but
Okay.
Okay, well, never mind.
You don't say never mind. Do you have any objection from
No.
flipping?
I just didn't want to take it out if she was gonna be trying to give money away.
Okay. All right, so if everybody's okay with it, we will flip number 20, sidewalk improvements in Midtown, move it up, and switch it with broadband fiber connectivity, number 7. Samantha, you got that?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, and then we need to go down to item number 21. And what were you saying again, Rifle, about the library moving up? And you went up
Number 4.
to number 4 and move workforce housing to number 2
Yes.
and move number 2 to number 5. And then what do we drop out?
I think it just bumped down. Like I said, the list right in front of me, but
Okay,
no,
so
you're moving items within the top 10, but then you're bringing your 8 back up into the top 10, so something has to drop out.
Yeah. So
Right.
we're bringing number 21 up. So which one do you propose you would like to drop out of the top 5? Because bridge replacement, I think's got to stay. Moon Mountain, I think, has to be a priority just with, it needs to be in there, in my opinion. We've talked about that, taking more control over our winter destiny. The Horton
Right,
Complex.
and I agree with that.
Our Horton Complex, we're, in the throes of getting started on that. Of course, workforce housing, we've only been working on that for 35 years, so I don't know if we want to get in a big hurry on that one all of a sudden. Removal of trees and watershed improvements is item number 6. We've got the sewer line extensions, which is part of our FEMA project that we're hopefully going to actually get a shovel in the ground pretty quick. So back to my question is, which one of those do we want to bump down out of our top 10?
Well, I'll recommend the trees and the watershed.
Okay, we'll move that to number 11 and move the library up to number 5. Is that right?
Number 4.
Okay, number 4.
And then bump everything else just down one.
Okay.
The
Okay. So,
problem that I have with that is we have no projects under $450,000 in the top 10 if we remove the trees and watershed improvements. And trees is something where it's an ongoing thing that every year we're having to do tree thinning to protect the communities. So I'm not quite so sure I agree with removing them.
okay, because, that was one of our strategies, if you remember, was to have lower ticket items that's worked for us in the past.
Right.
And we were able to get some of the funds that were left.
And Dick has done well in getting $50,000 and $80,000. So I agree with Tim.
But the state finances situation right now, I think that having some smaller ticket items, we'd have a better chance of getting something.
Okay, do you want to make a proposal there, Councilor Coughlin, or a proposal from you, Councilor Salas, and we can,
If Councilor Salas would be amenable to it, I would suggest moving library HVAC to number 11, but I don't see anything else in the top 10 that I personally would feel should be removed.
Well, that would work. I mean, it's moving up the list, so I just know when I'm sitting in Tim's office, I'm just waiting for that to explode, and I'm hitting the floor before he, jumping behind Tim actually, and as all that chatters, that was my concern.
no,
But I could agree with you, Tim.
okay, and so we'll move.
Really, Tim will move his office to the other side of the building.
Yeah. So if I hear what you're saying, we're going to move the library to number 11, which would bump the
11.
judicial complex to number 12.
Just bump everything down from there.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Samantha, follow me, make sure I got it right. Number 1 will be bridges. Number 2 is still going to be Moon Mountain. Number 3,
Yes,
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are all the same, and you'll just stick number 11 in there as the library and move number 12 then would be judicial complex and thereon and so forth.
Where the
Hey, Mayor,
sidewalks go.
Mayor, we talked about moving workforce housing up to number 2.
Okay, and then I was just reminded of the sidewalks in Midtown that we're always talking about. Okay, Councilor Letterman, what's your proposal for item number 20, sidewalks? Where do you want it?
Well, I wanted it in the top 10.
Well, I think but
Yeah,
after hearing that conversation, would you settle for 12th place?
I thought we were gonna flip flop it with broadband.
Broadband.
Okay, you're right. Okay. And so broadband will then drop to number 12.
Is
Is that gonna get everybody all right?
it'll go to 20.
No,
But we're
not if we stick it in there under the library and move everything else down.
Okay, because we had talked about just flip-flopping it to make it easy. Take that and 20 and just flip-flop them. But if you want to put it all for 20, I don't really
Is
care.
that gonna work with you, or do you want fiber up? Because we're started on the fiber. I mean, we've actually got it going on poles and in the ground. And this is all on our money back, so I don't know how much of that we'd even get.
They're not gonna have any money to give us anymore.
Okay, so we're flip-flopping number 7 and number 21, Samantha?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Can I read off the top 10 just to make sure I'm clear?
Yes, please.
Okay, so number 1, bridge replacement projects. Number 2, workforce housing. Number 3, E91 addressing, consolidated dispatch. Number 4, sewer line rehabilitation. Number 5, the library. Oh no, number 4 will be the, oh no, I'm confused now.
Number 4 was gonna be Moon Mountain.
Okay, so we'll leave that there.
Yeah.
I mean, number 5 was gonna be Moon Mountain, I'm sorry.
Yes, 5 Moon Mountain, 4 the library.
No, the library was
No.
gonna be number 11.
Library's 11. Okay, and then from there, it'll all just shift down?
Yeah, but please read, wanna make sure we're,
One bridge. Sorry, I'm writing.
it's okay. So as I understand, it's bridge, workforce housing, E911, Horton, Moon Mountain. Number 6 is removal of trees. Number 7 is now,
Sidewalks.
Yes, sidewalk.
sidewalks, yes.
Sidewalks.
Number 8 is sewer line extension. Number 9, street drainage. Number 10, Eagle Creek. Number 11 is now library. And then number 12 would be judicial complex, and then it would just go all the way down from there, Samantha.
Okay.
Is that clear as mud? We got it?
Yeah, I missed number 10. What did you say for 10?
Number 10 was still Eagle Creek well field improvements.
Okay.
Okay, Mayor, just to be clear, number 8, where it says sewer line extensions,
Yes,
that's not FEMA on the next page, top where it says sewer line rehabilitation FEMA. That's projects that haven't already in plan.
did you catch what he said?
I couldn't-
Repeat, please.
Okay, number 8, where it says sewer line extensions, that is not a FEMA project. The sewer line we have, FEMA is actually down at number 15 on the next page.
Right.
Sewer line extensions is stuff that Adam's already working on.
That's a CDBG Pine Cliff.
Well, we're working on that CBDG grant for Pine Cliff subdivision.
Right.
And that's why we had that in there on the sewer line extensions was for that.
I think somehow we mentioned FEMA when we were reading down the list, and it's not a FEMA project, just to be.
Oh, is that what you're saying?
For some reason, he's coming in broken up, Jeff.
I think I heard what you said. You're kind of breaking up on me, but the only thing I didn't mean to say anything about FEMA with the sewer line extensions. We were talking about the bridge replacement is still part of the FEMA.
Okay, I may have misheard something. I just thought when we said sewer, that the word FEMA got inserted at some point in the conversation.
Okay. Well, if I did, I didn't mean to. That would be down to item, which would be number 16 now.
just that transparency thing we're always talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Obvious. I appreciate your help, buddy.
If
right.
you'd like, I could speak slower for you.
That would, that would help me out tremendously. So we got it, Samantha?
Yes, what was your number 4?
Number 4 was still Horton.
Horton, okay, I wanted to make sure, that's what I have. Okay,
Okie dokie.
yes, sir. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I know we've worked on that for a long time, and it always comes down to the last minute shuffle. So Councilor Letterman, I'd be pretty happy. I'm happy too on that one. That's a good one. So now we just got to get the money back. Awesome. Now then, we'll need a motion for that, please.
Go ahead, Susan.
Anybody out there?
I move that we accept the adopted resolution 2020-33, the resolution adopting the FY 202-06 infrastructure capital improvement plan, ICIP.
Jackson, second.
Okay, we have any other further discussion? No? Okay, roll call, please.
Can
Mr.
I
Vaughn.
make,
Yeah,
can I
hold on.
make a friendly amendment
Okay,
to change the order of items as discussed?
oh, okay. Okay,
Since we rearranged them.
okay, that's a good point. Thank you.
I take that.
You accept that, Susan?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, thank you.
Counselor Jackson?
Yes,
Okay. Okay, thank you. Counselor Salas, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
aye.
Counselor Eby.
Okay, thank you, folks. Now we'll move on to regular item number 2. Is discussion and possible action on Ruidoso Midtown Traffic Control Plan prepared by Stantec Consulting Services, Inc. And here in the chambers, we have,
Mayor, we had a Gatsby, and if I may, Mayor,
go ahead.
Mayor, I wanted to start off by not just introducing Gabby from Stantec, but letting Samantha give us a little bit of background on where the project all started. And, Mayor, at this point, these options are being presented as part of the road diet. And, part of the road diet and the philosophy of road diet is actually, to bring in and provide various options. So I've oftentimes referred to it as a menu of options that we'd be considering. The presentation you're going to be seeing today has several different adaptations that may occur. But all those things are going to be options that the governing body should be taking a look at, considering the impacts. As we move forward with studying this, one of the things that we recognize, we initially started with the Main Street area going down Sedgwick first, and then we recognized that there was going to be additional impacts to the adjacent neighborhoods as well. So we have potential options that we can consider or look at conceptually. At some point in time, I would recommend that we survey or engage the public on the Rio Street and the Wingfield prior to any, just like we would with any other development. We would engage those concerned citizens. I know that there's several people that felt that we're moving forward on this already. There's several steps that have to be gone through, and the study isn't nowhere near complete. All we're doing is considering options. So with that said, Mayor, I'd like to see if we could recognize the Main Street organization and Samantha as prior to the.
And I think that would be wise to do that.
Okay.
So,
You okay with that?
yeah, you're going to have on for the Main Street.
Samantha, if you can go ahead and proceed from here.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Just to give a brief overview of the efforts that we put together, we came out in 3 team. So there were 6 individuals out surveying those from Pine Road to Chase Drive on both sides of the street, north and south. And we went out and met face to face with the business, each business, and spoke with those that were deemed to have decision-making authority. So out of the 96 businesses that are in that district, 72 responded to our survey. We were able to, let them know our intentions with the 3 lanes to increase foot space, and due to COVID, we just need more room, even if it's just something as simple as walking from store to store, just to promote COVID-safe practices. We went out in 2 days because some stores were not open or the decision-making authority just wasn't present. So we went out multiple days just to have that face-to-face interaction with them. We made contact, and these were the results that were given to us. We're proposing if they supported the concept, and 64% said yes, that they did support the concept. We asked them, would this concept have a positive impact on your business? And 55% of the respondents said yes. We asked them if they would modify their operations to include the sidewalk expansion. 47% of the stores said yes. And the last question was open-ended, and any concerns that they may have had. A lot of the concerns came from just safety of pedestrians, and that's when we brought on Stantec to give us an engineered design and to keep safety in mind of our tourists and residents alike. So we let them know this is temporary and would just be a trial and could potentially become permanent if it did work out. We did not analyze the impact to Wingfield or Rio, which is something that if we did move forward, we would definitely get out and make that face-to-face contact with the residents and businesses on those streets alike, so we can assess the impact to them. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Matt Ingram with the Main Street Association.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Matt.
Good. Our organization, the Ruidoso Midtown Association, started a conversation a while ago to support efforts to extend pedestrian and business capacity within the Midtown Shopping District. The COVID-19 regulations have inhibited business operations in the Midtown District, and our organization supports measures to extend services to storefront sidewalks, patio usage, as well as social distancing practices. Our organization encourages creative standards to promote calming traffic measures and maybe a long-term strategy to increase the Midtown District usage. New Mexico Main Street communities are actively engaging and assisting businesses through the recovery process and the programs available from the state. The Ruidoso Midtown Association is really seeking a directive from the Village of Ruidoso, New Mexico Department of Transportation, as well as the Midtown stakeholders to develop a plan that can mitigate the virus's economic impact. And that's why our organization supports the decision of the stakeholders that have participated in the proposed Midtown Control Plan and the survey. And I just want to be an adamant a supporter of being able to increase the usage for some of our businesses that are in dire need of patio usage. So with that, we were a part of the survey, went out with the business, went out and surveyed the businesses, and we're a part of coming up with that final number there. we've been working with tourism department to kind of identify just some other areas, maybe some other communities that are using something similar, and the economic development that these communities are seeing, both a positive impact is really what we are trying to identify there. So our organization does support the efforts to create some sort of control plan, traffic control plan in the Midtown District.
Okay. Does any counselor have any comments or questions so far of Matt?
Yeah, Mayor, I have a question of Matt. Matt, how many businesses are in dire need of patio area?
Dire need of usage of patios. Really what we're looking at is a restaurant being able to offer, the patio usage. If we're looking at, Samantha might have a little bit more of that information in the survey, but along the north side of the road there, we have close to 5 businesses, restaurants that would participate in the extended patio usage, and that's what I identified. I'm not sure how many businesses would participate in a sidewalk sale, just because that survey really wasn't conducted specifically. However, I know that I do believe that over 50% of businesses would actually utilize or take some sort of extra step and with the plan.
Okay, I was just questioning, you had mentioned part of your survey is you were looking at how many businesses were in dire need of patio areas. So that's why I was asking that question of how many would you actually determine are in dire need of patio area?
Well, we looked at, you could start looking at Lost there on the north side of the road, Lost Hiker Brewing, their patio usage would extend, Hunt and Harvest, Noisy Water Winery, I believe the Noisy Water, the Cellar, I believe would participate in it. Chihuahua's Restaurant was another one that I talked with her on, that she would extend her usage out into the parking lot and potential onto the sidewalk. That is all the ones that I can recall that I have talked to personally off the top of my head at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Samantha, did you want me to hop in?
Just announce yourself, Justin.
Yep, this is Justin Huffman, Director of Tourism. So I was also a part of the survey when we went out into the community and surveyed the community. What we're looking at across the state and even some of our regional neighbors is this has already been done and implemented. This exact same concept. Flagstaff, Arizona, it's been done and implemented. Durango, Colorado, it's been done and implemented. And Golden, Colorado, it's been done and implemented. In Santa Fe, it's been done. In Red River, it's been done. Cloudcroft jumped on it right away and immediately allowed people to set up outdoor spaces, and it's been done and implemented. I think as a community, the important thing that we can do is everything possible to save every single business. So, Councilor Coffin, when you asked how many businesses it will benefit directly, specifically with patio space, I think the important thing to realize is from estimates that I've been getting from the tourism department, they're saying 20 to 40% of restaurants across the state may end up closing as a result of COVID. I think we have to do everything we can to protect these businesses and to take the steps to give them a fighting chance to stay alive. We don't want to see more vacancies in Midtown. We don't want to see losing restaurants in Midtown. Those are our anchor businesses down there that people will go shop. Then when it gets too hot or too cold, they'll stop and have a drink. They'll have a meal, and then they'll continue shopping. If we lose restaurants in Midtown, we're going to see people leaving that area and not spending as much time or money down there. So I think it's incredibly important to protect as many as possible. I think the other thing to point out is you look at Quarters, who's had a tremendous response because they've got that great parking lot. And you know, I was talking to Dean Fowler about it, and he said that it's something that they are going to look at potentially, you know, doing year over year, maintaining that during the summer is that utilizing their patio in the parking lot like that. So I think it's already proven that it's helped that business. What we're seeing at WPS with the huge improvements that they've done there and utilizing their parking space to create outdoor dining, it's a major step up to help these businesses, and also long term, it increases the pedestrian friendliness of the area, and I think that's incredibly important. The traffic goes way too fast through Midtown, and the economics of it really prove that when you have a better pedestrian friendly area, you're going to have a better overall economic impact. People are going to spend more money, spend more time in those districts.
So Justin, I'm not arguing the point with you, because I've been to Golden, Colorado. I mean, I really enjoyed that area, the way it's set up and some of the other areas that you had mentioned. But when we're talking about, you know, all these other cities, okay, they've got their deal. We're talking about making changes to our community, and we're talking about how it's going to benefit our businesses. And that's what I was asking, was more the specifics. We need to justify, if we're going to approve this, what is going to be the benefit, rather than, you know, secondhand information or suppositions about what it's going to do. And that's where I was looking for hard numbers.
Well, I can tell you this definitively: Hunt and Harvest will close in October if this isn't done. Like that's where we're at with that. So Hunt and Harvest will lose. You know, Noisy and the Cellar both are utilizing parking lots, dirt parking lots in the back that they're not able to really utilize very well, and they're not comfortable spaces. Lost Hiker, Jen Carey told us that would be have a huge economic impact on her business because their patio out back is small. They don't have adequate space. So those businesses right there, Lost Hiker, Hunt and Harvest, Noisy, and the Cellar, all of those are going to benefit directly from this, if that helps to clarify and more directly answer your question.
Well, it's the way that it was presented was the businesses that are in dire need of patio area, and all I was asking was how many businesses are we talking about? And you know,
yeah, I
mean, I can go down the street and think of other restaurants and that I haven't heard named, like Cafe Rio. Would they benefit from it? Would they participate in it? Would some of the others? And that's what I'm asking about. And, you know, as the conversation continues with you, you know, Jennifer's Place came out, and that's another one to add to it. So that's all I'm asking is how many offices are we looking that are going to be affected? And those are the restaurants. And let's face it, for the most part, the restaurants are going to be the ones that are going to benefit the most. The retailers have an inventory and shrinkage issue by putting their stuff out on the sidewalk, and many of those may or may not participate in it. But what's going to be the impact, and how many businesses that are going to be directly affected by this?
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head. I mean, I think you're 100% right. It's going to directly benefit the restaurants. Cafe Rio, I didn't actually survey Cafe Rio, so I can't speak directly to their participation level. But I do think, that those are other ones to consider. Noisy Water Sushi, who's in the plaza there, might be able to benefit from it. There's quite a few places down there that are restaurant, dining, and beverage facilities that would likely benefit from it. But I think you're right. I don't think that the retailers, at least the ones that I spoke to, and knowing like my wife and sister's store, they're not gonna, they may not utilize the sidewalk, but they're in support of helping their neighbors, and they like the idea of what a more friendly pedestrian area where there's outdoor cafe style dining, what kind of impact that's gonna have. So
and for me, if we went out and surveyed, and we had 3 different teams surveying, we should have a list of all those restaurants. And that's what I'm asking, not the ones that you specifically spoke to, but who are all the restaurants out of that entire survey that were asked, and how many would participate and how many would not? I don't feel I'm getting all the information. Not that it's neglectful or that somebody's trying to mislead. We're just not getting all the information from the efforts that were done with the survey.
And I think that's a sentiment that echoes throughout most of the public input. Justin, you mentioned several business owners downtown, and I've got letters from those folks here, and I actually spoke to several of them. It's not that any of them are against this per se. They don't have enough information to make a good decision on how to follow along or how to support. And as a result, that it would be a no. And I think it goes along with what Councilor Coughlin is saying, that he feels like he needs more information, or it should be more information. And go ahead, Samantha.
I do have a list of those restaurants that were surveyed. However, their answers are not identified in the results independently. So if you'd like a list of those that were surveyed, I can provide that.
Yeah. Well, and I think we all saw the surveys and, you know, the questions that were there, but I think we need to make sure that we do see those again and weigh that. But
I wanted to follow up with what Justin was talking about, the direct benefit. Yes, we would be able to get a head count as to those that are utilizing the outdoor seating of the restaurants. But I think what we're missing is the indirect benefit in keeping those shoppers down in the district. They're going to see the indirect benefit in the increase in their sales that's going to come from this expansion.
Mayor, you know, as we have it on the agenda today, it talks about possible action. You know, some of the possible actions may be recommended to actually get out there and engage those business owners more now that we have some options to look at. So, you know, as we present the plan, you know, there's concepts in that plan that we can share. Previously, you know, we just had old presentations that were put together. We didn't have anything based off of the new standards for the traffic diet. So, you know, as we move forward, if there's additional questions, I think that's going to have to be one of our you know, actions, is actually getting out there, visiting with each business, making sure that we engage the property owner and the business owner, and in that whole project area, and show them, you know, the various concepts and see what part of the concepts they like for their area. Because it's not just, you know, a straight going to three lanes. Some of it has proposed parking, some of it has patio area. There's additional crosswalks. There's quite a bit of different types of items that we put into this whole study, so that we can pick and choose what's going to fit our community.
Right.
So, you know, follow-up surveys, follow-up engagement with the public and the business owners, I think, is warranted.
No, I agree. I think it's, unless Samantha, you have anything else to add, we'll go ahead and move on to the presentation, so we can actually see, you know, what data we've actually got to work with. And then we do have a long list of questions that are, you know, not what ifs, but some of them are, that we could then look at the plan and see how those questions or concerns would be answered. Yes, ma'am. Identify, tell everybody, you got her microphone?
I don't, but I was told that everyone was going to be able to hear me anyway.
Can everyone
hear me?
Just barely.
Okay.
I'll move those.
Okay, we're moving the speaker over. The actual speaker, not the woman speaking.
They should be able to hear you good now.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Much better.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Gabby and I work for Stantec. I'd also like to let you know that prior to working for Stantec, I was a committee member of the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials. And they're the group that put out guidelines for the nation, and pretty much other countries, they follow those guidelines. And I helped to co-author some of those guidebooks, one of which was the guidebook for non-motorized transportation. So I'm familiar with bicyclists, pedestrians, and their needs, and for multimodal also. I also served on the Transportation Research Board out of Washington, D.C., and we did a lot of research on this type of transportation needs, anything that dealt with pedestrians, vehicles, and safety, most of all. So that's what I've done on the national level, and now I'm working for Stantec. And I also have some information for you as far as road diets. We did do some work with road diets and the effects that they have on communities, the economic effects that they have on communities. So I do have some information for you on that, for you to decide whether this is a good thing or whatever you need to decide on this for your community. So with that, I'll go ahead and just share a little bit more with you. Can everyone see the road diet Mythbusters?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Council, can you see it okay?
Yes.
Okay, so this is actually a publication that came out from FHWA. FHWA is the Federal Highway Administration, and we pretty much have to follow their direction on road diets, pedestrian facilities, roads, bridges, anything that has to do with transportation. We follow their direction. So this is just a publication that they put out explaining a little bit more about what road diets are. And what a road diet really is creating a livable community, not just for someone that's passing through, but for someone that can actually stop, park, and walk an area. And that's what a road diet will allow us to do. It will allow pedestrians to stop, be in a safe area where traffic has slowed down, be able to either shop, eat, or whatever they need to do. What it does for vehicles is it slows them down, which is very good for economic reasons. Because when you slow down, you tend to look around and see the shops, see the restaurants, and decide, maybe I need to stop here. Maybe I should stop here. This looks like a neat place. And if we make it aesthetically pleasing, it's even more of a benefit for the community. So this here is just a really simple layout of pretty much what we have out there right now. Right now, what we have is a 4-lane roadway. And one of the concepts that we have that seems to be the one that might fit the best for this community is a 3-lane section with a center lane that will allow for delivery vehicles to stop and make their deliveries and stay out of the way of the traffic. It will also allow for emergency vehicles to get around vehicles that are in the travel lanes. So that shouldn't be a problem for emergency vehicles to get to where they're going, because that is a concern in these road diets. So this article, if you do Google this article, just do road diet Mythbusters, and you'll have more of an opportunity to look at it, consider it, see what it says, see what you think about it, and see if this is going to fit your community. Okay, so with that said, the concept that we came up with was definitely in collaboration with the village, and we listened to their needs and what they have to say. And what we have come up with is not set in stone. We're definitely open to listening more to the community and to your leadership here in the village to give you what you need, not only to benefit any one person, but to benefit the community as a whole. So again, this is not set in stone. So I'll just walk you through this real quickly. What we have here is Sudderth, where we're going to start this direction. We're going to take it down to 1 lane. One of the things that we would like to do is add more crosswalks in the area. And I know that crosswalks may sometimes cause accidents because I have never known paint to stop a vehicle. So one of the things that we could possibly do here is implement a hawk system, although that is more of a permanent solution. And what that does is, a pedestrian can come to this area, press a button, say, I want to cross, lights start flashing, it alerts vehicles, there's somebody here that wants to get across. So it provides a little bit more alertness to the, gives more alertness, if that's the right word, to the motor vehicle to let them know, hey, there's a pedestrian, look out. Okay, and hopefully it provides a little bit more protection to the pedestrian. So this is just what we have here. And as we're moving east, we have more areas here in which, we're going to provide crosswalks. And then eventually here, starting with this street here, we can provide that protection with some sort of a positive barrier, some sort of a fencing that has yet to be determined, because we definitely want to do what the community needs. So in this area that you see darkened in here, this is an area that we could possibly set up outdoor dining and give more space to pedestrians to be able to walk around without having to be so close to people, especially during this pandemic season, which we hope is only a season. And then that ends right here on this street.
What street's that?
I'm sorry, I can't see that far from.
It's supposed to be Pawnee.
At one point I did have this memorized. So I know.
Eagle.
Okay, so it goes.
Eagle Drive.
So it goes from Center to Eagle is where we have that outdoor dining set up. And then as you continue moving on down the street, we switch to this side. We switch to the south side, which we will provide dining room on this side. And the other thing
So that's between Country Club
and Pine Street, I
and
believe.
Pine Street.
So what we're also doing here, if you see these lines here, what this is angled parking. And it's not like your typical parking where you pull into it at a 45-degree angle. What we're doing here is vehicles are traveling this way. They're traveling westbound. You pull up and then you back up into the parking space. It's very flat. It's not 45 degrees, so it's a lot easier to pull into and definitely gives you a better sight of vision when you need to pull out. That way you can pull out safely and not have those blind spots when you're pulling out if you had gone in front first. So this is a safer way of parking.
Mayor, I just want to remind everybody as we're going through the presentation that all these are concepts. So as we looked at the outdoor dining, there may be variations of where we want to offer that, as opposed to some areas, like for instance, prior to Eagle, we talked about on-street parking. It may make more sense to have that additional on-street parking on the south side of the road as opposed to the north. So, those are just a couple of examples that I want to throw out there. When you look at the north side of the road, there's quite a few bump outs of
Yeah, that's where all
parking
parking
that are allowed. So on the south side, if you moved it to the south side, then that would add additional parking. So there's variations as we look at these different opportunities or recommendations. May work better in some areas than others.
Yes.
So all this needs to be massaged and hashed
Yes.
out.
But Jim, on the parking on the north side of the road, if we put up barriers, we're gonna lose all that, aren't we?
Well,
We're
that's
gonna
what,
put barriers and then pedestrian and then you're parking, so you can't get there
on the north side,
on the north.
from Eagle to Chase, that would just be additional parking, no barriers. So if we move that to the south and it was just additional parking, that lane would be used for parking as opposed to driving or pedestrians or whatnot, to provide more parking options.
What about outside dining?
Conceptually, dining, that's where you look at in front of the restaurants and you put up the barricades and the patio, additional patios. So it doesn't have to be continuous all the way through.
No.
You can move back and forth and make those accommodations.
Yeah,
From
it would
Eagle to
definitely,
Country Club, or where you've got a bunch of restaurants.
Yes.
yes, it would definitely take more effort to try and avoid these bump outs right here that you're seeing. This is what you're talking about, right? Like, what are we gonna do with those if we put up barriers here?
Right.
So there's always an option of ending the barriers here, and the ones that have the longer parking area, you know, continue to leave that for parking. There's different variations we can certainly do. So like I said, whatever works best for the community, and where we can accommodate the safest distancing areas, and give opportunities for more dining and pedestrians, what we would call multimodal. You know, we can't just have roads anymore in these areas just for vehicles. We need to be able to allow pedestrians and shoppers and bicyclists to be able to maneuver through here as well.
What does the highway department say about setting up on Susan sidewalks?
Well, there certainly was, in the past, the highway department, you know, they always revert back to the idea of, we get you from here to there, and it's all concrete or it's all hot mix. There has been a move in recent years for road diets from the highway department, because FHWA, the ones that provide most of the funding to the highway department, they are the ones that are also pushing for this. So they're pushing for livable communities, which include road diets, multimodal facilities, which this would be one. So I think right now is the perfect time to get buy-in from them, because those are some of the initiatives they're pushing. Plus, the silver lining, if there is any in the COVID pandemic, is we do need to distance. So this could help the cause, if this is the cause we need to pursue or want to pursue. So on top of all those areas that I've served in with AASHTO and with Transportation Research Board, I did spend a lifetime with the DOT. I was there with them for almost 27 years. And what I did was the manager for all of roadway designs for southern New Mexico. So I'm very familiar with their policies. I'm familiar with what makes them nervous, and I'm familiar with what they would approve or not approve, or how we can mitigate that, how we can get design variances. In some cases, when it comes to lane widths, I know how to get around getting design exceptions and presenting that to them, and hopefully we can get that done. They don't always say yes, but at least I know how to work around some of that and present it in a way that would get us some buy-in if we need to do that.
Now, Gabby, could you go into a little more, because I think the concept of temporary, permanent, how do you do that and make it temporary? What's temporary? Is that a year?
So-
Because we've got a temporary Anaconda line that's been there for a long time, you know, that we had during the fire. So I'm just curious, you know, so the people that are listening, and I know the people that are looking at this on their screens, it's pretty small for them. So it'll be a good idea what the manager talked about getting out in the community, letting people see the plans and being able to discuss it. But so could you go into that just a little bit, what temporary?
Okay, so there's several things we can do temporary. If we do temporary, my recommendation would be to use some sort of a fence barrier. But I know, like I said, because of my experience with the DOT, they want a positive barrier, and a fence is not positive. So one of the concepts that we've come up with is to use parking stops and line them up longitudinally along the roadway, pin them down to the roadway if the DOT will let us pin them down, and then that provides that positive barrier that they're looking for. Now, this isn't standard for them, but it definitely is a positive barrier that I think we can get some buy-in from them if we explain it to them. If it was a permanent solution, I would recommend, instead of those parking barriers, what we would call a pin curb, which is pretty much the same concept. It's not, if you look at curb and gutter, just think of it without the gutter portion of it. And it's just like a concrete longitudinal block all along there that will keep an errant vehicle from going into the pedestrians. Now, if they're going
Gabby,
fast,
I think you actually have some profiles of that. You can
I
show
do.
In your presentation.
I do. I will show that to you. Let me.
Before we move on from this, Gabby, hold on one second. before you move on from that one slide,
Mhm.
I just wanted to point something out, Mayor, with that new parking concept. What we might want to do is find an area in the community to introduce that concept before we put it in that area. And that way, this angled parking, most people don't really have seen that concept before, but if we introduce it and have a demonstration area where people can actually go and try it, I think they're gonna find that this parking concept, it provides more parking, but it's also a safety factor. It's a lot easier. When you parallel park, you make that movement and then you swing your front end in. This one, you're just making that backwards movement. And when you pull out, you really have that sight vision. So I think maybe doing some demonstration projects on some of these things may be a good idea.
Yeah, and the temporary part that you're looking at, Mr. Mayor,
Mhm.
is that we could use temporary striping here. And what that is, it's very temporary. It's actually a marking tape. So, it's a very heavy duty marking tape. You come, you lay it out, but it is very temporary, and we need to keep that in mind because as soon as we get heavy rains, that might start coming up. It sometimes does, it doesn't always. It's kind of finicky that way, but that is a temporary try without having to go in and paint it and then later say, hey, it didn't work. Now we've got to go out and mill out all those stripes that people are going to see anyway, even when you mill them out. They're going to see that there was stripes here.
Yes, go ahead.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Sure, go right ahead, Councilor Kaufman.
I have a concern with this backing up into a parking spot. Many parking lots that you'll see, they have signs up that says, do not back into a parking space, because many people are challenged when it comes to backing up a vehicle. Has this type of a concept been in wide use before, where you're backing up off a road into a parking spot?
Yes, sir. It has been used across communities. One of the ones that is being used in very successfully right now is in the city of Las Cruces in the downtown area. They have implemented this, and they've actually put up signs that give somewhat of a direction to people of how you use this. That way you don't get people from the opposite lane trying to come in from first. And this is only for the immediate lane next to this, and there are signs that give direction. I can certainly contact the city of Las Cruces and see what kind of accidents they have, but I've actually had the pleasure of working in the high-rise building that's there, and I get to see from the high-rise building, I see all this traffic and what they do, and I have yet to see an accident or a mishap happen there. But again, I'm not there 24 hours a day, so.
My other question is related to DOT. How long do you anticipate it would take us to get approval to put this plan in place if we have something definitive today? I mean, are we talking, is DOT ready to approve it? It typically, because you've got a lot of experience with DOT, could we get it approved in a couple of weeks, in a month, in 2 months? How long would it take to get DOT approval to put this plan in?
Honestly, I don't know how much legwork has been done. Maybe Mr. Dodge can address how much discussion they've had with the DOT so far.
Eric, Councilor Kaufman, I think there's, I don't think this plan is ready to be approved today. I think there's additional work that needs to be done. And in addition to that, as we look at the various concepts that we're proposing, we're still going to have to go out and do some traffic counts, some traffic impacts, things of that nature. So there's additional work on our end that we have to do prior to getting there. So what we really wanted to do today is look at some concepts, see what, the council may want to consider, not consider, study more. And then once it's submitted to DOT, I think the direction that a lot of agencies have received, just like with, alcohol and outdoor patios and things of that nature, they're trying to expedite those. I don't know what their internal process is going to be for this, if it's going to have to go to the Highway Commission or not. Gabby's saying no, but I would assume that they would expedite it once we're ready. But I would definitely not make a recommendation that we try to implement this immediately. There may be parts of it that we take a look at. For instance, the crosswalks. There's been a lot of concern that's came up of the danger of people crossing back and forth. not having those, I had a person walk in front of me, they thought the speed hump was a crosswalk and I had to, pretty much slam on my brakes on my bike. There's some dangerous areas in that, so, there's no, I don't know if we have a time frame. I know that they're willing to expedite it as quickly as possible once we submit it.
Well, I know we haven't had discussions per se, except for the fact that when this was brought to us, we did talk to the engineer, Mr. Parker, and then he talked about the road dot and that they were willing to look at anything right now, but he acted like it was something that they would, wouldn't go through the regular timeframes that they would be able to look at it. So,
Right.
Well, and I agree with you. There's still a lot more work to be done on this, but my question was more when Justin and, and Matt gave their presentations, they were talking about how we're suffering. And unless we do something pretty quickly, they're possibly going to be going out of business. I'm looking at realistically for outdoor patio dining, mid-October is probably going to be about as far as you're going to be able to go because the governor won't allow the walled areas on these tents and putting up heaters and things like that. So realistically, we've got maybe 2 months of effective use of it. And I don't know if this can be approved in that. So we're not talking about being able to help out those businesses until possibly spring.
Mr. Counselor, I did have a discussion with the district and again, based on my knowledge of how the permits that they can issue, I think that it would be worth discussing with them if Mr. Dodge wanted to obtaining a landscape permit for the fencing and to get a special events permit from them, and that would give us a temporary use if the council and Mr. Dodge wishes to go that direction.
Mayor, and I think that's where we can take sections of this and introduce sections and
Yes.
say we could accomplish this here. If we want to look at the whole thing, I don't think it's take it all or leave it. I think it's, take pieces of it, try to see what's going to work for the community.
well, and I think just living here, I mean, I'm still a newbie at 15, 16 years, but before when we talked to DOT Street down for 4 hours once in a while, and we're still working with them, trying to get them to do their part of the sidewalks because we're reminded all the time that those are their sidewalks. And so, we're constantly working with those, but we do have an engineer that's over this area that is very fond of Ruidoso, that works with us a lot. And we've got a good history with him. So I think that, we need the study. And in the meantime, we'll have to be looking at the traffic surveys, calming methods and things for Wingfield, Rio, because we have a lot of folks over there that we haven't even talked to that this will affect greatly. So we would need to be able to visit with those. So again, getting a traffic survey, how long would that take? Now, we do that. We've done several of them over in that area, Chase and whatnot, but we've not done one on Rio.
Mayor, Council, we've had some internal discussions on that, and there's some historic information that we have. We just have to get some new traffic numbers, and then Gabby and her team will be able to analyze that. So, we've already started some initial work on that, but the temporary permits, would be a lot easier to obtain and achieve if that's the wishes of the governing body.
Yes.
And
Mayor.
The way that we've approached this, Mayor and Council, is we really looked at trying to keep the same exact lanes that we had, so we wouldn't have to go in and scarify the surface and then move the lanes completely. So
Right.
that's why we try to keep it so that the temporary part of it is a lot easier to achieve.
And that other, yes, Councilor Letterman.
I had a question for Tim. If we did a temporary, would the traffic be one way, or could we do it in a way to where we could help our restaurants and businesses but not obstruct the traffic? Keep the 2 lanes on each side for the time being, or would that be 1 lane?
Mayor, Councilor, in the area where the temporary patios would be set up, I would assume that at least one side would be a one lane. And if we maintain 2 on the other side, I think that may also be a possibility. on a temporary basis. I don't see how we'd be able to have the pedestrian accessibility with extended patios. That area is just too tight. Without taking at least one lane in some areas, so nothing would stop us from saying, going from, Eagle to, in front of, what used to be Burnell's, and setting up a patio area there, and just taking it down to one lane on your, westbound, and then maintaining two southbound or two eastbound lanes, westbound and eastbound. It turns out it's I don't know if it's true east-west, but.
So Councilor Letterman, we did have an option of having patio dining on both sides of Sutter all the way through. However, that didn't buy as much, and it may not have been worth the effort, because splitting one lane into two areas, really it gave us only 5 feet, and then putting the fencing up, we would take 2 of those feet, so it really only gave us 3 feet. And it didn't seem like that was going to be worth the effort, but certainly something we can consider.
Thank you.
It would only give you an additional 3 feet on each side in some areas.
Okay.
Okay. Goodness, what do we have? So this here is an overall traffic flow concept if something like this were to be implemented. So this gives you an idea, and I'm sorry, I'm very far from where all these street names are.
Maybe just real quick before you go on to this presentation. Okay. This wasn't initially part of our discussions until we had a conversation with NMDOT, and they talked to us about, are there any alternate routes,
yes,
to consider as well, because you're going to have to consider the impacts that you may have. So that's when Rio Street and Wingfield was brought into the conversation. As we look at the traffic study, there has to be some type of alternate routes. If you have some type of emergency, you need to be able to move traffic around and continue to move it. So, so we're starting all the way up at Chase, and then, proposing to go all the way down to Pine, and then where Wingfield meets. So go ahead, Gabby. I just wanted to kind of give you a couple of references.
Okay, no, thank you. So this is basically what we have come up with, and again, this is just a concept. This isn't set in stone, and this isn't what we're ready to do tomorrow. This is just a concept, and definitely open to comments. One of the things that I do like about this, if it's implemented, is that as far as Ruidoso, these streets that can become one-way, there are 2 lanes right now. We could possibly leave one lane as a multimodal for bicyclists, which of course brings more value to the community in some cases. So that's something to consider. If you're interested in adding bike lanes to your community, this would be one option. Any comments on that one?
There would need to be a lot of work done over there on those roads, because they're
Yes,
so
it would.
congested. We already have speeding problems and things of those that we're dealing with right now.
Yes. There definitely would need to be a lot of study. As Mr. Dodge mentioned, we have not done traffic modeling or any traffic studies. We were just tasked to present alternatives that we could do. Certainly the wise thing to do would be to do some traffic modeling and make sure that we account for the effects that this is going to have on your community and your businesses.
Okay.
So this is what the typical section would probably look like. Whoops, excuse me. This is what the typical section would look like. So here's a walkway, outdoor dining area. Here's a fence. Now this isn't the fence we're going to use. This is just an idea to put out there. This here is that parking block I was talking about. And here's your westbound traffic, your center lane for deliveries, and that carriage that you have going up and down on weekends. This would accommodate for that. And then here is your eastbound. Another option that I put up here simply because I want to make sure that we let the DOT know that we're taking into account how they feel about this road as well. And one of the things that they mentioned to me is a concrete wall barrier, which I know may not be the most aesthetically pleasing, but if that's all that they're willing to approve, I think there's ways that we can make it aesthetically pleasing. We can do an acid wash on the concrete, give it, earthy greenish colors that would complement the area, such as greens and browns that would give it a marbled look. It would be really, really pretty. Or you could also have, as an option, local artists that are willing to display their art and paint these. So there's ways to beautify this grayish concrete if the DOT will allow us. And I would think that they would. I don't have a definite from them, but those are options we could present to them and still give them that level of comfort of, we are protecting the diners, we are protecting the pedestrians, and we're actually protecting the vehicles as well. So here's just some pictures of some possibilities of fencing. Now, this one here is, I think would be so beautiful in this area. It kind of reminds me of decks, so many decks in the area on homes and stuff. This could be a white fence, and it doesn't take, this here, the dimension here, at most it would take is 2 feet. So we're not taking much from the dining area to set this up. There's an option with this type to set up planters on it if the village so wishes to do. And of course, in front of this, we would put that positive barrier, a parking block, if the DOT will allow us. So this would make for a really beautiful area. This other one is a little bit slimmer. It doesn't take up as much room. This is a metal barrier fence. So this one is equally as beautiful. I certainly would recommend not a black color. We need something that's a little bit more visible, such as white, because at night, black can just blend in with the background, and you want people to know we're here, and it will also slow down your traffic. It just will have that calming, slowing down effect.
So those are temporary?
This one is temporary. This one, I believe, can be temporary because it can be pinned down. So that one is temporary. The one that is not temporary is this one, and I'm not sure how to get us over to that area. Hold on. This one on the right can also be a temporary one, and I don't have a picture of it, but the temporary one has a wider base down here that I think will take up too much room. However, we can make it permanent, and this one is also a steel iron fence. So this one's not as pretty, but certainly, it's functional. And this one, there's certainly some creativity that went into that one. And this one is, I think, just beautiful. But this one here is a vinyl fence. And
the plant would add to the tourist experience of bringing the wildlife in and watching them eat the plants.
Yes, and everybody's camera would just start coming out. So, again, you get the wildlife out there, and definitely people are going to want to come back and sit around and watch this.
Susan's gonna get them. They're feeding
the deer.
So these are just boring, typical, or specification type stuff down here. That's what a parking block looks like, and those are the dimensions on it. But anyway, that's just a very concept level of what could possibly happen here, and definitely open to comments and changes and whatever is going to help us get the village what it needs and help its economy and satisfy the DOT at the same time.
So what happens if it really works well and we like it?
Then I say, let's tell the DOT, let's make this permanent.
And then you think they would go with that?
I would really hope so, because there is, like I said, there's all those initiatives across the country to start making livable communities, walkable communities too. And I know it's been very effective in cities in the East, Savannah, Georgia. It's an amazing place, and this is what they have. We're not Savannah, Georgia here. I mean, this is different, and this is actually much more pleasant in the summer anyway. But I think that this would be beautiful for the village of Ruidoso, and I just
Well, one of the
I love
knocks
the
that
area.
we always hear is that it's a state highway. And so, we've tried in the past to get us the ability to slow the traffic down so
Mhm.
we can take advantage of some of the data that we've seen on the increased revenue to local businesses. But we were always told no, but this in effect would let it slow down the traffic.
It will. That's just the effect that it has. If you've ever driven in big cities, let's say like Phoenix, where you have concrete wall barrier all around you, traffic always slows down in those areas because even though the lane widths didn't change, just that confinement feel, and we have done studies on it through Astro, through one of those groups I was in, where it has this calming effect, even though the lane widths never changed. You just get a little bit nervous being confined and you just kind of slow down. And that's what this is going to do. It's definitely going to confine people because we're not changing the lane widths. We're just removing one lane, but the one lane that they drive in, we're not changing that. But, it is going to change that perception of I'm confined, I need to slow down.
Yeah, one of the things you didn't cover is the crosswalks.
Oh, yes. So on the crosswalks, I know that the DOT has a hard time approving crosswalks mid-block. That's just, and it's for safety reasons. It's not just because they're being difficult. It's for safety reasons. People don't expect to see a pedestrian mid-block, so they're not looking out for them. They look out for them at intersections and such. However, I did approach the DOT and say, if I don't have a four-leg intersection, would you be willing to approve a crosswalk on a three-leg intersection? Where you have a road that comes into Sudworth and it creates a T. Would you let me put a crosswalk there? And they didn't say no. And I said, it is an intersection, so I need to get people across the street safer. If the village does decide to set up these dining areas, we're going to have to get pedestrians, diners from one side of the street to the other because, what I imagine is that these dining areas aren't going to be exclusive to the side that they're on. If you have a restaurant on the other side that wants to eat in the dining area, they can bring their meal to the other side. So we need to get them across safely. There is these systems called Hawk systems where a pedestrian can get across a crosswalk where it's usually not expected, press a button, lights come on, alerts the traffic, the vehicles that, hey, there's a pedestrian coming through, make way for them because at that point the pedestrian has the right of way.
So you had it depicted in a few areas where there
I
was
did.
actual intersections.
I did.
Maybe optional as well.
And would this qualify for some of our COVID cares money?
The modifications to the patios, yes.
One of the things I would suggest is also, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is safety funds with the highway department. If we put crosswalks in, you could possibly ask them if they're willing to participate with safety funds to make this area safer for the pedestrians. And Federal Highway Administration definitely always, in spite of pandemics or shortages in funding, the safety fund is, I've never seen it shrink, I've always seen it grow. Maybe I shouldn't be giving you all that information.
Well, I'm glad you are. That's good information.
So Mayor, there's a couple of intersections that are T intersections that, there is potential for adding crosswalks.
Such as this one right here.
Is that
That's
Eagle? What is it?
No, that's not Eagle. That's let me walk up there. Navajo, I believe.
Navajo?
Yes, Navajo Drive. So that's one area, and again, this is just a concept because I don't have buy-in from the DOT, but I haven't presented it to them either. But again, just an idea of where we could possibly put some. Other areas that I suggested was this one here, and there is one where, here. This isn't a double one like we see over here at intersections, But this one here, because there's a parking area here that looked like it, people would want to get off here and get across possibly because the dining area, as you can see, isn't on this side. So definitely we can present that to the DOT and see if they're willing to buy into that or allow us to do this.
That happens to be where people think they cross anyways. It's right in front of quarters.
Right, that's kind of what I figured, it doesn't matter how many sidewalks we put places, you can always see somebody's landscaping where someone has decided to cut through here. Well, maybe that's where we should have put a sidewalk. But maybe that's where we should put a crosswalk. So definitely I'm willing to reason with the DOT, and I know that Mr. Dodge is willing to reason with them. And I know why they say no, but I also know there's a process in which if we follow the process, they could possibly say yes.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted, if we had the one ways going each way, the crosswalks would probably be a very good option. I just want to remind everybody that 20 years ago or so, we did have crosswalks and our pedestrians kept getting hit. So the DOT took them out.
Yeah, but I agree with you, and I know why they took them out. It's of course for the safety of, because we care about the public. I mean, we don't want anyone to get hit. With the Hawk systems, I think that would be a little bit better. They might buy into this if we set those up. Now, like I said earlier, if we just put crosswalk paint out here, paint has never stopped a vehicle. It's very ineffective at stopping a vehicle other than alerting them. But maybe with even if we suggest to the DOT that in the middle, in the center lane, and at these points we could set up some sort of a refuge island where we do put up curb or those pin curbs I was talking about. But it's a bit of a sidewalk there where we can provide some sort of protection to the pedestrian or a refuge to someone that's in a wheelchair that needs to, take a break. I'm trying to get across, but I need a break. Take a little break and then keep moving.
Mayor, Counselor, I don't know if you've seen those systems, but if a pedestrian goes into a certain area, then there's lights that start to flash.
Yes.
Some of them have them right on the street. Some of them have like a stop sign or a pole that starts to flash to, make the vehicles aware that somebody's entered that area.
Yes. But again, that is more of a permanent fix or a permanent suggestion to the DOT if they're willing to buy into it.
Well, I've seen those as temporary as well, where they're solar powered, and then there's like a little hump that goes across the road so that the cables can go underneath that. So I have seen them in temporary locations as well.
Yes, they can be temporary, and usually those are you're right, very temporary, which I know one of the concerns of the DOT would be if they get hit, they're mobile, they will move. And they don't want something to be thrown into another vehicle. So it would definitely have to be a special event, temporary type of light. But you are correct. They are available.
So in the beginning part of your presentation, you brought up that one web page and something. And one of the myths was that calming or whatever you call it, the road diet is not additional congestion, but it did say in the corridor area. So how do you handle the congestion, which we've all seen it in construction zones, where you go from 2 lane to 1, you get into the 1 lane, you're fine, but getting into that 1 lane where the 2 lanes are coming together, you start getting a backup. So how do we handle that congestion?
Well, we're going to have advanced signing for that, letting people know that this is coming into a congested area. And that's
because he waits to the last minute to get over.
Yeah, that does happen, unfortunately. But that is where we have to do the traffic modeling, and it takes this study into another level where we do the traffic modeling and let people know that you're coming into a congested area. There's these other options that you have if we choose to use the options of Rio and Wingfield. Did that answer your question?
Sure.
It doesn't sound like I answered your question.
No, not really. I mean, I just know the way people are. You know, when we have, as it is right now, we have 2 lanes and you've got one delivery vehicle stopped, people will come up to about 8 feet off the bumper of that delivery vehicle and then try and cut in. So, and that just creates further congestion. And we see it during the peak times, during the summer, where traffic can be backed up for, you know, a block and a half waiting to get around and into a single lane.
Yes, and that's where we would need to do a traffic modeling study. And excuse me, actually, when I had this discussion, and it was a brief discussion with Mr. Tim Parker, the District 2 engineer in Roswell, he did ask me, he says, where is your traffic study? And I said, well, this is just a temporary, and I don't have a traffic study yet. I said, but definitely if you will request that of the village, then that's a conversation you need to have with them and see what they have to say about that.
So previously, when we had many meetings about trying to move traffic through Midtown and calming it and slowing it down, we did traffic counts, we did all kinds of traffic studies. Is that data still viable, or do we have to redo it all?
I don't think that you'll have to redo it to the extent that it was done in those previous studies, because I actually was actually with the DOT when those studies were being done. So the extent of those studies may not have to be as in-depth. However, that data will need to be updated because, you know, populations change, traffic patterns change. So some of that data will have to be updated.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Now, do we take this back to the public or?
Yeah,
We can talk about this all afternoon.
right, and there's a lot of what ifs and,
Yeah.
you know, what happens when it snows? Is that temporary lines coming up? And so what I would suggest at this point, because we have a pretty good feeling of what the options are, and then we've got a good idea what the questions are, and then we're gonna have to do some public outreach. So, I mean, the action that I would like to see is that we would maybe direct staff to prepare, you know, because we need to look at Rio, we need to look at Wingfield. So to direct staff to start a public outreach program to get where we can, when I say program, I'm not talking about a lengthy thing. We can have meetings, and I think that the Midtown folks will attend, you know, give them 2, 3, 4 options to show up. And we actually reach out to those people, find out what their question, you know, we have a lot of those concerns are, and then look at the different options that are available and which ones we think we might like. Look at talk to the people in Rio and Wingfield, and then see what we would need to do for traffic calming and safety and things of those nature. And then see if we have enough of a consensus to bring that back to council next. You think we can get it done in a month?
Mayor, if you'd like it done in a month, we'll work to accomplish that.
I think if you don't do it in a month, there's not much point.
Okay.
So I think you're gonna have time scheduling meetings when you're talking about bringing people together for a meeting, given the COVID restrictions we have.
Can we put this plan on the website? And let people-
Yeah, we can put her plan on the website where it can be enlarged and whatnot, but we could have groups of 5. And so I've talked to Eddie Fowler. He said we could use anyone, his places, or Dean Fowler said we could use Quarters or any of the other businesses. You know, we could have a meeting where people could come in and look at what the data says.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the meantime, we need to start a process to looking at Wingfield, and because I think now if we're going to ever be able to get to do anything and maybe offer some changes, and anytime we try to do anything different, it's a little scary. And I know that a lot of people are fearful because business has been so temperamental right now that they don't want to change anything. But I think, you know, there's a lot of opportunity right now with the state and with funds that are becoming available through CARES, that we can maybe take advantage of some of these things, and only if it benefits our businesses. And so we need to talk to those people. So if we can get I don't think we'll need a motion. Do we need anything like that to table it to next month? And then just direct staff to get that information put together and have the meeting?
Maybe you could have it as a radio program on Monday mornings.
Well,
I think it'd be a good forum to get
Yeah, that's a good idea. We can start on, Monday with the mayor, having people call into the radio station from 8 to 10 a.m.
Yeah, then you'll have 15 people.
And then we'll have 15 people.
Mayor, I would recommend that you entertain a motion directing staff to do so.
Okay, did everybody hear that? It seems I need a motion, directing staff to, go ahead and get that information put together, set up the public outreach with the Midtown businesses and the folks on Rio and Winkfield.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Okay, John made the motion.
I move that we direct staff to follow up on the action on the Ruidoso Midtown traffic control plan and to do more of an outreach program and with the downtown merchants and to study the traffic on Wingfield and Rio. Is that enough?
I hear a second anywhere?
Second, Jackson.
Okay, Jackson's got a second. Is there any other discussion? No? But maybe this will get some of the questions answered. People will have their input. Roll call, please, Mrs. Devine.
Yes, sir. Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Eby. Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Counselor Salas,
He went to sleep.
did we lose him? I think he's on one of those ones.
Aye.
Okay, there you
Took me a
go.
while to unmute it.
Okay, buddy. Thank you.
Mayor,
Thank you, everybody. Yes, sir.
Mayor, Council, thank you all. And just for clarification on Rio and Wingfield, we're not just gonna be looking at one-way options. We're gonna be looking at all options, other alternatives. You know, if there's room for expansion. And I think we also need to consider additional parking opportunities as well. So, you know, I wanted to put that out there if you're okay with that, Mayor.
I do too, because I think you're gonna lose some parking. We need to make it up.
Okay. I agree with all of that. Okay, that works good. Thank you very much, Gabby,
Thank you.
for everything that you did and all your expertise. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
And I think we got some new information today. So thank you very much.
Thank you. You're always welcome to contact me if you have any more questions.
We will do it, believe me.
Thank you.
You're not done.
Today you are, but.
Yeah.
Okay, item number 3 is discussion and possible action on purchase of street department equipment and vehicles through state price agreements in the total amount of $315,637.00. Josh, are you on?
Hey, yes, sir. Mayor, council, this bid is to replace our, 2 trucks. We have a 3/4 ton truck and a 1-ton truck that, we need to replace for snow removal this winter. The 1-ton truck is for a total of $51,729. And that'll come complete with the snow plow. The second one is for a 3/4 ton truck for a total of $34,259, complete with the snow plow package also. And both of those trucks would be coming from Molloy Fleet. And the third one that we have on there is for our big dump truck to come complete with snowplow prep package and the salter. And that is for a total of $229,649. And that would be coming from Inland Kenworth.
Is that a used one?
Go ahead.
That's a new one or used one?
The snowplow is new. We were looking for the transport truck as looking into a used one.
Well, that's what that Kenworth is, the transport truck?
No, sir, it's the Kenworth is a dump truck also.
Okay, very good.
I got the quotes from the same place.
Okay, awesome.
It's a big, nice one like the highway department uses.
Okay,
That looks to me
Oh.
like if you don't get them ordered really quick, you missed winter with a 16-week delivery.
Yes, sir. Well, you know, it's 14 to 16 weeks for the trucks, the 2 pickup trucks, and it's gonna be 3 months, 3.5 months for the dump truck.
okay. Does anybody have any questions of Josh? We've all looked at his fleet. We understand the needs. And I bet with COVID that it's longer than 16 weeks. Does anybody have any other questions of Josh?
I don't have a question, but you know, I received a comment from somebody saying, "Oh my goodness, we're spending that much money for vehicles. Is it really necessary?" I wish we had the pictures to show people. I think that you know, I don't know what the normal period of time lifespan on one of these trucks is, but I think the last one, the street department got probably twice that length out of it. If anything, these things are short, needed, and very well, you know, appropriate purchase for us to make for the department.
I would agree, because way back in 2005-06, when we were upside down financially at the village, we you know, we didn't purchase anything, and we tried to only make things necessary. And unfortunately, the streets department was the bottom of the barrel, and they were the last ones that have gotten any new equipment. So this is to help.
Fix the floorboards.
Yeah, exactly.
Mayor, I think we even got twice the life out of the bubble gum, duct tape, and
Yeah,
wire.
that's exactly true. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
I have a comment. I personally went and looked at all of the trucks, and it was appalling. Our people that maintain the roads, they need proper equipment.
Okay. And where is this money coming out of, Judy, out of the capital? I mean, what's the name of that fund? SURF. Capital,
Yeah.
I can't, equipment, yeah. SURF fund?
That's what it says.
Oh, it does?
And the financial impact.
Okay, good boy. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or would like to point out any other of the mistakes that the mayor makes?
No, this is Jack. In the interest of health and safety of the street department, I move to approve the purchase of street department equipment and vehicles to the state trust agreement. Total amount of $350,637.
Second.
Who did? Evie. Okay, we're losing the sound again. Okay, no further discussion. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Evie,
Okay, what's going on?
Jeff, I think we need a portable battery for one of these.
Those are all freshly charged.
Would it help if I plug the USB in my laptop?
Yes, I think it may be one of those two that are, I think it's theirs. I have a portable battery on my desk.
Okay.
If you want to.
I'll go.
Okay, we'll resume. Jackson, go ahead, Irma.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Evie, Counselor Evie,
Counselor Evie?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Aye, okay.
thank you. Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Okay, there you go, Josh. Thank you, sir.
Mayor, for this next item, I'm gonna step out so Zach can step in and the Townsends are here as well.
Okay, well, we're not on that item.
Oh.
We're on number 4.
Regular.
Regular items.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, after we finish the regular items, I was gonna move to that.
I had the wrong number for.
Okay. Item number 4, discussion and possible action on improvements in funding for additions of fencing to Grindstone concession area retaining walls. Rodney?
Good afternoon, Mayor and councilors. The agenda item today is a request for allocation of funding for some improvements to Grindstone Lake. The funding is specifically to provide some fall protection around the retaining walls that were built during the construction of those retaining walls. Initially, I had presented during the workshop some option of vinyl fencing for those areas. At the direction of the governing body, I have looked at some alternatives to the vinyl fencing. I visited with the contractor who had previously performed the work, Roper Construction. I also visited with Bill Powers, and we came up with a couple of solutions that would remedy the requirements of a couple of the fences. In the area nearest the concession, the retaining wall nearest the concession, or what I call the upper retaining wall, the majority of that area is right near the 30-inch requirement. And so in working with Mr. Powers, I took his direction. We can add some additional sand in that area. When we initially filled it up, it was not quite full, and so it increased the height of that wall. So a simple solution is just to add sand to that area. As far as the picnic area goes, it will require some fall protection. So I investigated the option of the metal handrail and the stainless steel cable system. I do have a proposal from Roper Construction for that. And then I also, on the lower retaining wall, which is nearest or the south of that area, nearest the beach area, we could install an additional wall in that area, creating an additional seating area, or for a possible future for seating or loungers. And that would also eliminate the need for an additional fence in that area. And so with those two amendments, it would be a total of around $29,600 for those options, not including GRT. Whereas the fence options, as previously presented, was roughly around $25,000.
The fence was 21,500.
21.
So Rodney, one of the things that came up during the workshop was you had mentioned that the wall may not have been built to the original specifications or design or something.
I think that was you, Counselor Coughlin.
Sorry?
I think that was you, Counselor Coughlin, that you were asking that question, so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And so in actuality, this project, so the project was a design build. And so I presented my concept to Roper Construction. Then they designed the project. Again, the initial heights of those walls, the way I understood it, were not required to have fall protection, but as the way I saw it, I did not, it wasn't presented to me that it would need fencing. And so I took it for granted that all three of those walls wouldn't require fall protection. And I think that's, I think that's the issue with the design build and the review of those plans. That was an oversight on my part that I didn't catch it. But again, it was presented to me from the contractor as that wasn't in the plans. It wasn't until later that it was brought up by Bill Powers that was a requirement. So I don't know how to explain that other than it was oversight on my part.
Right, and I'm assuming that because of the design of the wall, there was no permit that was required.
I can't speak to that matter. That's on, I'm not sure what the requirement is. I would have to follow up with Ryan or Roper Construction regarding that.
Well, I'm just basing that on the fact that Bill didn't say anything about, hey, you need a permit to go fall. But
right. The way I understand it, it would have required a state permit anyways. It wouldn't require. It wouldn't.
If it was required, it would have to come through the state.
Yes.
Correct. So maybe, here's a suggestion, is maybe, so we learn from this one, I guess, but maybe in the future is we run these things through our construction department, our planning and zoning department, just to have them take a look at it and make sure that we're all in compliance with it. And that a permit's not required.
What's that?
And maybe, because I know Bill is a stickler and all the guys there for safety, they're sticklers and stuff. And they would have said, oh, if you're gonna do this, you're gonna need a fence, and we would have known ahead of time instead of after the fact.
I agree, because Mr. Powers did catch it as he was just doing a in-kind walkthrough to supervise it. He did catch it, so I would agree.
Mayor,
Yes, sir. Counselor Cornelius?
on the fencing options, even though this is more expensive, I think it's a better solution. I think that vinyl fence, if you're in any of those areas, is gonna kill the view to the lake. You're gonna be sitting there having a picnic looking at a white vinyl fence. And I'd rather see put another little area in there and the cable and make it where you can see down there and have it more pleasant.
I agree with that 100%. Anybody else? So what you're asking for, Rodney, is 20, not the 21, but the
29 plus GRT.
plus GRT, okay.
And that would be for adding a lower, for lack of a better term, the lower addition to the wall to eliminate fencing along there, and then fencing only by the picnic area.
That is correct.
And using the cabling,
Yes, sir.
okay?
And so as far as the revenue, we had a balance of roughly around $27,000 remaining from the FY20 WIPIT revenue allocated for the parks, for park improvements. And, this is obviously around a few $1,000s greater than that. And so, we're doing very well per the FY21 revenue for that same area, I'm sure I don't believe that in speaking with Judy that we can allocate that until the closeout of the parking season. And so the closeout will be September 2nd for the remaining, $3,000 or $4,000 that we would need. So I'm not exactly sure how we should approach that. There will be, in speaking with Ryan, or Roper Construction, there was going to be, they will not be billing the 100% as initially quoted. There'll be a $5,000, not really a discount, but he won't be billing for the additional $5,000 just to some, he had, I guess, overestimated some of the work. So that being said, there would be enough in the current fiscal year with the closeout of that purchase order and the existing balance.
Okay, did everybody get that? Okay.
And I do have that in writing that he was going to be cutting back his final invoice and leaving a remainder of $5,000 on the project.
So,
Okay.
Robbie, are you saying that it won't be 29,006 plus GRP? It would be basically 24,600 plus GRP?
No, sir. What I'm saying is the project for the construction, I believe was $130,000.
Oh, okay.
He'll only be billing $125,000.
Correct, for other projects. Okay. So, Judy, are you on the call?
Yeah, if y'all would hush, she's gonna answer you.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, no. Were you listening into what Robbie was saying? Is there gonna be any financial issues with what he's proposing?
Right now the WIBIT's coming in, but until the season's over, I won't know what the final amount is. He is correct in that the overage from last fiscal year was 27,000. %70% of the net income off the parking after all expenses are paid and a reserve of 1 month operating budget will be reserved.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the sound of the draw. Stop.
So the last part of the budget, you said the money would come out of reserve. What did you say? The last part of that, Judy?
We have to reserve 1 month's operating of the WIBIT after the net.
Okay, never mind. I think what she's saying is we have to reserve 1 month's operating to start off. We can't hear you, Judy.
That's of this present coming year. He has the money from last year plus the.
Okay. Does anyone else have any comments or questions?
Rodney, how long do you think this project will take?
I did not get a timeline from Ryan requesting that. I just visited about the options. You know, and if you ask me, I wouldn't think it would take longer than 30 days.
Okay, I'm asking because if Judy's not gonna have final numbers until after the beginning of September, the project would be finished sometime after that. But let's say, just devil's advocate, let's say there is not enough money after evaluating last year's expenses, you're gonna be short a few $1,000s. Do you have other section of the budget you can borrow that money from or reallocate funds?
Yes, if that's permitted, we have money in our operating from either park maintenance or building and property maintenance. And plus, like I said, I mean, there's the 5,000 that will be left over on the existing purchase order we have for the current work that is being done. So between that and last year's revenue, it will cover that project.
Okay. Motion?
Yes, motion, please.
All right, Mayor, I move that we approve the improvements and funding for addition of fencing to Grindstone concession area retaining walls by using cable railing on the upper area and a new retaining wall picnic area on the lower area for a price of $29,000 plus CRT.
Second.
Okay, no further discussion?
Can I just make a clarification? Rodney, it was 29,500. Just there's $600 difference between the motion and what Rodney had said.
Okay, well, I'd accept your amendment.
To 29,600?
Yeah.
Okay. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Counselor Cornelius?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby? Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Okay, there you go, Rodney. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 5 is discussion and possible action on stucco improvements to the community center in the amount of $59,986.46, including gross receipts tax and performance labor bonds through Cooperative Educational Services, CES, contract number 2020-09B, G 1137, all with White Sands Construction, Inc. Anthony?
Good afternoon, Mayor Crawford, members of the council, Manager Dodge. Yes, the project is going to include the prep, patch, and paint stucco and wood surfaces to include all of the exterior walls, soffits, and fascia.
Awesome.
Elastomeric paint is going to be utilized at all exterior stucco surfaces as well. They'll be replacing all rotted fascia, soffit, and the trim that is beyond repair, and painting and prepping the one that's not so bad. They're also going to be putting gutters and downspouts around the perimeter of the Ruidoso Community Center as well to alleviate the water that spills over the sidewalks and keep it away from the stucco that exists that will be repaired, so that it'll alleviate the weatherization that happens there. The project, White Sands Construction said that the project should take about 30 days after 2 weeks after receiving the notice to proceed with the purchase order. So, yes, that's about it. Is there any questions?
Rodney, it's John. What are these exclusions?
The exclusions, they put some exclusions on there, just stuff that they're not gonna be taking care of because they were just gonna be doing the main outer perimeter of the center. They have stuff that there was lighting on there that they talked about they wanted to fix, but we just wanted to the cost was gonna be way more than what the village what we talked about getting, so they excluded all that off of the original quote because we weren't going to be replacing any lighting or anything. It was just complete stucco, fascia and paint on the building, and then the addition of the gutters as well.
What about building permit and Davis-Bacon wages?
As far as the building permit, I didn't know, was that something that we would have to get through the Village of Ruidoso, or was that something that White Sands Construction would have to obtain from us?
He would get it from the state, right?
Yeah, actually get it.
Yeah, and you don't have to have permits for painting, but he's doing other work.
So he would have to get permits for the stucco as well?
The stucco, the carpentry work, the gutters. And I don't understand why we're excluding Davis-Bacon wages. Is this not a scale job?
Counselor, the Davis-Bacon wages are included in the CES contract with White Sands Construction. So they will be abiding by the Davis-Bacon Wage Act.
But it's on his exclusion list right here.
Yeah, I think I should take that back. The reason why he said that is because the Davis-Bacon Wage Acts are federal wage decision, and this is a state wage decision. So that's probably why he put that in there. But they will be following the the New Mexico Department of Workforce Solution wages.
Okay.
You need a motion, Mayor?
Yes, I was just looking, see if we got all of our questions answered. Does anybody else have any others? If not, then we need a motion, ma'am.
I move that we take action on stucco improvements to the community center in the amount of $59,908.46, including gross receipts tax and performance labor bonds through Cooperative Educational Services Contract number 2020-019-E1167-ALL with White Sands Construction, Inc.
Jackson, second.
Okay. No further questions. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you. Now we'll move back, since I had the ability to move around on this agenda given to me by the good folks here. We'll go through the public hearings in compliance with the Attorney General's office mandate regarding the Open Meetings Act during COVID-19 state of emergency. The governing body will accept public input or for public hearings via email at irmadivine@ruidoso-nm.gov. Public comments must be submitted prior to 1 p.m. and be distributed to the governing members for review. Do we have any of those, ma'am?
Mayor Crawford, members of the governing body, we do have two handouts there for you that pertain, both of those pertain to public hearing number 4.
Okay.
We separated the emails that we received that were in favor and the ones that were opposed, if that helps in any way. But those only pertain to public hearing 4.
Okay. I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and knock out item number 1, and then with council's permission, we'll then jump to number 4. Okay, so item number 1 for public hearing is approval of change of floor plan expansion of liquor license premises for existing dispensers, liquor license number 303 for the business known as Brandmo LLC DBA Wind Place and Show, located at 2516 Sudworth Drive in Ruidoso. And as clerk mentioned beforehand, there was no notice of disapproval or anything like that. That was also known as the Raffle Salas question. So we don't have that. We have our legal notices, the application, and the zoning certificate. Does anybody, we don't have any of those, so there's no public, so I'll ask the council. Does anybody on the council have any comments or questions? I believe that, I see Mike up there. He's online right now. Does the council have any questions? No? Okay, well then I'll close the public portion of this question, and if we can get a motion for approval to change the floor plan, I would appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, Jackson, I move to approve the change of floor plans / expansion liquor license premises for existing dispensers, liquor license number 0303 for the business known as Brandmo LLC DBA Wind Place Show, located 2516 Sudworth Drive, Ruidoso. Second.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
What was that? Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
thank you. Counselor Eby, Counselor Eby,
I stepped out for a second.
okay. Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius.
Aye.
So the only one we're lacking is Counselor Eby.
Right,
He just walked back into the room.
okay.
Counselor Eby, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, there you go, Mr. Mike Cheney, on that part of it. Looking forward to throwing a few axes. Now then, we will jump to number 4, which is appeal of Planning Commission's decision to deny case number SP-2020-0289, Jesse Townsend, applicant 525 Resort Drive, James Townsend, Track 1A, designation of property to CPUD, Commercial Plan Unit Development, with the site plan and concept approval to include campground with recreational activities. And I believe that we have Mr. Townsend here.
Mayor, we're gonna make a couple of changes. I'm gonna step out so Zach can come in and Mr. Townsend and his attorney can come in.
Okay.
I'm gonna need about a minute to get them set up so he can do his presentation.
Okay.
All right.
All right, we'll take just a 5-minute break so we can have a chance for Mr. Townsend's representation to get his PowerPoint set up.
Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Josh.
Zach's got him outside Robert Phillips. He said, give him a minute.
Okay.
So, what do we do? Go. I've heard agreement.
She had a sketch plan of the concept that you wanted to do, the activities. What do we need to put that?
Hi, guys. Have you seen Tim?
They all that, they probably don't have to go to the restroom.
Teresa Corcoran payment. Teresa Corner, we do the tower lease payment for the radio station.
Yes, we have to get an invoice from them. They said that they were gonna do one.
Okay, so they don't, for the lease, they don't have an invoice. And so Rod's like, we're late, we were supposed to have it.
Yeah, so they need to process the payment.
So
They need us.
they need to generate an
Yeah,
invoice.
they need to do a PO.
Mhm.
They need to get an invoice, even if they wanna just do the agreement page. You need to send us something.
Right.
Judy, it's Rodney.
Hey, what's going on?
You want me to get you a copy of that agreement, a purchase order, or do a check request for that corn, the one you all are talking about?
Oh, hey, we're
You're on
here.
Zoom, I can see you.
Yeah, I didn't cuss you out,
Well, I can feel it.
I can feel it.
you a PO for it. I think it's
Okay.
registered, right? And then just send us a copy of the agreement and just say July.
Okay. All right.
Or August.
Okay, thank you.
I sent you updated, so my figures right now are gonna be about 100,000 right now.
Okay.
Distribution. So is there any other project outside of the beach that you're gonna try to
No.
get out of the, so then you should be okay.
Do they need more
Okay.
time?
Okay.
All right, thank
See, people doing the presentation, he said, give him a minute.
Give them a minute.
Couple of minutes.
Okay.
I went to a RV park, actually, where I saw the rivet, where I discovered the rivet. I paid, I think it was $98 a night. My brother was telling me he paid $100 a night. Yeah. As long as it wasn't Sturgis. Yeah. Oh, man. Changing medication all the time. No better or worse? No, I can't eat as much. That's on your, blood sugar. They said I should. I thought they see, right? And nobody else.
Dizzy or just like nauseous or what?
Dizzy and nauseous. Blood sugar medication.
My blood pressure's up. What do you think? I mean, that blood sugar. Very
Seems like Rodney's the only one on there. Seems like Rodney's the only one on there now.
If we go again.
Uh-oh. What happened?
I have no idea. I just went to share screen.
Can they join again?
I'm here. There's everyone still on.
Oh, they're all still on?
Okay.
I just can't see them. Can you see the PowerPoint they're about to,
Nope.
No PowerPoint. Uh-oh.
all right.
So can we go to the next one?
Well, that said we need them. We're gonna go ahead, knock it out. We'll go ahead and move to the next one.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
You're not gonna get in this much trouble.
There's everybody.
Although we might. You can expect a phone call on
We're gonna go ahead
changing
and move to
people's
the next one.
addresses,
Okay, let me stop sharing. here.
including mine. I know you're gonna change mine.
Okay, change plans.
We're gonna go ahead and move on to, item number 2. Is all the council back in your places? EB,
I'm here. I don't know if Samantha's back there.
Silas, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, and Jackson, y'all back there?
We are.
Okay, Samantha, are you around?
Present.
Okay, you ready to go? We'll just go ahead and start on item number 2. Ordinance 2020-05, an ordinance amending the Village of Ruidoso Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 54, Land Use, Section 54, 146, lot numbering to adopt a uniform road naming and addressing system for the purposes of emergency services, public safety, road names, street signs, and road mapping within the Village of Ruidoso limits, requiring owners and occupants of every house and building in the area covered by the addressing system to display assigned numbers.
Yes.
Go ahead, ma'am.
That covers the intent of the ordinance. What we would like to do is to have a uniform addressing system that would help with public safety. right now, I'm sure many of you all have noticed, the addresses jump around significantly. And, some of the street names on the signs are not all uniform. So that would be our goal, to update, our street maps so that emergency services, public works, residents, tourists alike would have, accurate information and uniform addressing throughout the village. This ordinance does call for a standardized posting of your address and number, in which the first one would be provided by the Village of Ruidoso. We have coordinated with Keith Bedford, and his crews would be the ones making these placards and installing them. So they would be tasked with doing the one call to check for utilities prior to installation. We have a grant from Walmart right now that would help us cover some of these costs, and we're also applying for another Hubbard grant to try and obtain the funding for the remainder of the cost. As you can see, this is a lot more detailed than what's existing in the village code now in chapter 54. We had just A, B, C, D, and E, and so we've expanded that to include more detail for our residents and developers. I'll stand for any questions you all may have.
Does anybody have any questions for Samantha?
Samantha, this is Coughlin. So when you're saying inconsistency between numbering of addresses, is that different than the GIS work we've been doing for quite a while? Or is that the same thing?
So that is the data that's currently being held by Lori as she creates addresses, but a lot of it is off for whatever reason. I don't know if people were refusing to change their addresses, or it just wasn't uniform in the past, because you'll see one structure with two addresses that may be a corner lot that goes off of Rio and Eagle. That's one coming to mind, and it has two separate addresses. Things like that. We have streets that have even numbers on both sides of the road. So that obviously needs to be changed. We have streets that are phonetically close together, such as Cliff Court and Cliff Drive, that intersect, that need to be changed. We have street names that have been identified by dispatch that are duplicates to what Ruidoso Downs has. So in our efforts with consolidated dispatch, that sometimes causes confusion. So a lot of things like that we need to get cleared up, and I know the chiefs are online if they want to.
So then my question would be, we also have in here the display address numbers on the post, which I thought that was a great idea for a long time. But if this entire ordinance encompasses the street numbering, would those that are in question be delayed to and corrected, either the street names or the street numbers, and those would be implemented with street signs with the address numbers at a later date?
So what we have is a subcommittee made up of Public Works, Public Safety, Emergency Services, and our GIS. And they would work in coordination so that we're only doing the address change once. If you're getting a new street name and also some of the numbers on that street or subdivision need changing, we do it at that time. We wouldn't change the name and then come back several months later and change the number.
And then did I hear you say that the first time we put up the street signs, the address sign, that would be covered by the Village of Ruidoso, and I'm assuming that if something happens to that sign, then the property owner would be responsible for the cost after that?
Correct. The replacement will be purchased by the property owner.
A much better deal than we originally anticipated. We were looking at what the county was doing with their, so that's a great deal for people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I agree. I've been, back when Arlen was the fire chief, I sat down and talked with him during the freeze about the difficulties in trying to identify homes. We were out there checking water meters, and it was the greenhouse next to the purple house with big tree, you know, and it's the information we were putting down. And I can only imagine for law enforcement and the fire department, that typically if there's going to be a fire, you're going to see the smoke. Not always, but typically. But if you have a safety issue or a health issue going on, that can delay the response of the emergency responders. And this is definitely, and then we start bringing in the people from out of town who don't necessarily know where they're at. So this is a great safety issue, and I'm glad that this has finally got in front of us.
Thank you.
Samantha, it's John. Even though I know you're gonna change my address after 25 years, this is a great thing. We've been talking about doing this since I was on P&Z, and it's dangerous not having it done. And with us putting up signs where we can call one call for a whole block at a time, that's gonna make life easier for everybody. We can all expect to get a bunch of phone calls.
Right.
When we change somebody's address, but it needs to be done. So thanks for all your work on it.
Thank you, Counselor. I agree with you.
Are there, do you have any other comments? And we didn't have any public comment or questions sent into the millage clerk, ma'am?
Mayor Crawford, members of the governing body, that is correct. We did not have any inquiries or any type of communication submitted to our office for presentation to you on this particular item.
Okay. All right. With that said, then we'll close the public portion of the hearing on ordinance 2020-05, and we'll close that. And if someone would like to make a motion to accept.
Need to make the motion on this one. I'll move, oh, hold on. Councilor Eby wants to make a comment.
I just noticed that, you know, I saw it the other day, but, you know, in section A5, it says ownership of road name signs, all road name signs required by the village shall be the property of the village or the village code. It also states that no one shall locally destroy or in little bit respect road name signs. It doesn't say anything about any type of penalty or citation, but it does say at the very end of the ordinance. So under the signs is that those who not what do you say, failing to comply with this ordinance may result in a fine as defined in section 1.6 of the village code. So would that willful destruction or removal of, would that fall underneath that section as far as say any type of restitution for such action?
Samantha, can you comment to that?
Yes, they would all be subject to the penalties set forth in that first section of the village codes.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that it was, because it didn't state anything like that, but if it follows it, we are subject to, let's just say a citation or whatever, or court date, then that's fine.
Okay, since you're talking, do you want to go ahead and make the motion and deny Councilor Coffin the opportunity to speak once more?
Finger in my side.
No. So I'll go ahead and make the motion, and I'll move to adopt ordinance 2020-05, an ordinance amending the Village of Ruidoso Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 54, Land Use, Section 54-146, lot numbering to adopt a uniform road naming and addressing system for the purposes of emergency service, public safety, road names, street signs, and road mapping within the Village of Ruidoso limits, requiring owners and occupants of every house and building in the area covered by the addressing system to display assigned numbers.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, that's Mr. Eby. No further questions or comments, and so roll call, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Councilor Crawford,
Aye.
Councilor Eby,
Aye.
Councilor Letterman,
Aye.
Councilor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Okay, still don't see the Townsend group. I think they've got a discussion going on. So we'll move to item number 3, ordinance 2020-06, an ordinance amending the Village of Ruidoso Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 38, Environment, Section 38-103, Maintenance Standards for Vacant Buildings, to establish fees for the permitting of vacant buildings within the incorporated limits, excuse me, of the Village of Ruidoso. And that one is also Samantha, and I don't know if Bobby's going to be helping you with this one or not, Samantha.
Thank you, Mayor. Bobby is on the line if you all have questions for him. But this is going to be an application and fee for those individuals that would like to maintain a vacant building, whether it be commercial or residential. The fees that we're recommending would be $100 a year for residential and $360 for commercial. This application would be tied to the code, and so we want to make sure that the structure is sound, and if fire or police need to go into the building, that we make sure that it's a safe environment for them to get in to. So they would need to make sure that they're meeting the vacant building maintenance standards, and they submit the application and fee, and that'll be an annual permit that they would be issued. We're trying to reduce the number of vacant buildings that we have throughout town, especially in our commercial district. So that is the intent of this this ordinance. Bobby, do you have anything to add?
There was a lot of discussion about this ordinance as well as our blighted ordinance. So I think we've been through most of everything associated to the ordinance. This is mostly just setting fees, so I think it's a good thing.
Samantha, it's John. On there, it's number 2, it says that permit's 100 for residential, 360 for commercial. That doesn't say per year.
We should probably add that specification in.
Yeah.
Well, you said it, but I didn't see it in writing anywhere here, and I guess this is to try to persuade them not to be vacant anymore, because that's pretty stiff.
And so we need to, I didn't see the definition of what vacant means.
Yeah, if it's just a business that closed and moved out.
What if
So our application has those details. It sounds like we need to plug what's in the instructions and procedures of the application into the ordinance, just so that they're tied together.
Well, I mean, a building listed by a realtor that's vacant, that wouldn't be, would that qualify for vacant building permit?
I think it needs to have a timeline with that.
If there aren't any safety violations or corrections, Bobby, correct me, but that would not be one that would fall under these standards, would it?
That's not my opinion. I can't seem to get it pulled up on my computer at the moment. A vacant building, if I recall correctly, in the verbiage for the actual ordinance that we've already passed, gave timelines, and those timelines were for no one to visit the property or the building itself. So I would say that if a realtor has a structure up for sale, they're visiting it on a regular basis or have maintenance going to the property. It's not a vacant structure. It's not left to be abandoned.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were clear on that.
Well, what about a second home where people go back to wherever their hometown is and then they come back once a year or twice a year or something like that?
They would still have a water meter and utilities on.
Again, I think there's a timeline, and I Samantha, if you have that ordinance handy, for some reason, I don't have it up here. But there's a timeline. I want to say that with residential, it needs to be visited. I don't want to misquote. I wanted to say it was at least every 6 months, 6 or 8 months, something like that. And that doesn't mean someone has to come and stay in it, I don't think. I think someone just has to check the property.
Well, I believe most insurance companies that, working with a realtor in the past, they had a property they were representing and it was vacant and they had to get a tenant in within 1 year. Otherwise, the insurance company was going to deny coverage. So in that case, it's 1 year, as far as that goes. But yeah, I'd like to see the specific language, regarding the definition of a vacant building.
So vacant building is defined in the current existing ordinance that's adopted as a residential or commercial building which is lacking habitable presence of a natural person who have a legal right to be on their premises, or at which substantially all lawful business operations or residential occupancy has ceased. Residential property shall not be deemed vacant if it has not been used as a residence by a permitted entitled to possession for a period of at least 3 months within the previous 9 months, or a person entitled to possession intends to resume residing at the property.
Samantha, where was that in that ordinance?
It's just in the definitions portion.
That we don't have.
So the section that, let me share my screen. The section you all have will just be related to
Zach.
the fees in the application.
30 days to write.
This is the full ordinance.
Isn't time to start over.
Okay, down here, it says certificate of insurance. We're requiring liability insurance on these. Do we require a business owner everywhere else to have liability insurance?
No.
I hadn't heard that before.
Counselor, to answer your question, we don't, I do not believe that we do require any businesses to have liability insurance.
Okay. At some point, this is getting pretty punitive, it sounds like.
It's only if the business is doing visibility.
Okay. Is it, are they gonna bring them in?
Yeah. And I'll send it over here.
Say that again, Tim?
I believe it's only if the business is doing business with the Village of Ruidoso, has a contract from sort to provide services.
Yeah.
That's the only, that insurance policy is required.
Samantha, remind me or correct me if I'm wrong, but this ordinance is already passed, correct?
Yes, so this is the vacant and blighted building ordinance that we are working off of currently.
So looking at this new proposed ordinance, the section about the standards and whatnot, it looks very similar to what you have on your screen as far as the blighted property. It almost seems like it's a duplicate.
All we're adding in is the fees. Everything else is adopted.
So it's just the 100 and the 360, that's the difference?
Yes, sir, this number 2 vacant building permit.
Okay, you need to add per year on that though.
Yes.
My question is, what was P&Z Commission's recommendation, or did they approve this as well?
Yes, they made the recommendation to you all for adoption.
Okay, thank you.
And Samantha, I'm sorry, but can you go back to the justification, please?
The justification for those fees is we were trying to set them high enough to deter people from having vacant buildings in the village. and for them to be, not become a nuisance.
See, I think that a vacant building and a nuisance are two different things. I don't agree that they're one and the same. It could be something that a building is vacant because it's going under major remodeling. It could be, given like the circumstances we're in right now with COVID, it may be that you've got a out-of-town property owner who's unable to come here because of conditions and safety. So I don't know that I necessarily agree with it.
So this would just be the declaration of nuisance. It says vacant buildings that are not maintained in conformity with this chapter are declared a public nuisance. No owner, agent, tenant, or person in control of real property located in the village of Ruidoso shall allow, maintain, or cause to be maintained a blighted premises. So that would be the focus of Bobby's efforts.
But that's already in effect, correct?
Yes, sir.
The vacant building definition within that blighted ordinance is already in effect as well. All that is proposed today is actually setting the fees for the application process. Everything else has already been adopted.
Okay, well, put the per year in there, and then at number 1, inspection by village, change compliant to complaint. See where I'm talking about? It says upon receiving a complaint of a possible violation.
Oh, okay.
I
Got
got
it.
it. Would be complaint.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, and we had nothing from the public on this one either. Madam Clerk?
Mayor Crawford, members of the governing body, that is correct. We did not receive any correspondence and any means of communication for this public hearing.
Okay, and we've covered enough of that, so we'll close the public hearing portion of this, and now then we'll open it up to if we're going to make a offer for an ordinance change, amending the ordinance. Does anyone want to make a motion one way or the other?
I'll make a motion, Mayor.
Okay, Counselor Cornelius.
Watch it.
Well, I mean, he gets wound up and he's just got in my head.
I move we approve an ordinance 2020-06, amending the Village of Ruidoso Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 38, Environment, Section 38-103, Maintenance Standards for Vacant Buildings, to establish fees for the permitting of vacant buildings within the incorporated limits of the Village of Ruidoso, and adding on the fee schedule per year.
Second.
Okay, no further discussion?
Ask one real quick. please.
I knew it. Somebody take that, unwind him.
Sorry. So let's assume that somebody does not apply for a vacant building permit that has a building that is declared vacant by the definitions within this ordinance. What then happens?
The way the permit would be triggered is if Bobby has an open code enforcement case with them, and then he would ask or request them to come into compliance with the vacant building standards. So if they have a broken window or the roof.
But if they don't have if they have not applied and received a building permit, a vacant building permit,
Then that is susceptible to section 1-6 of the village code. They could be cited to that offense.
but they could also be cited for having a blighted property.
Correct. It would be all in one because it's all based on the same ordinance. It could be multiple different portions of that ordinance. But yes, the vacant building standards are a portion that could be cited upon.
See, I'm just thinking that this is like overkill because we already have the vacant, the blighted property to go after somebody for. And let's face it, if somebody's got a blighted property and they can't afford to take care of it, big deal, you know, they're not gonna spend $100 or $360 per permit anyway. What we need to do is work on getting that property into compliance, and I don't think that the fee within this ordinance is necessarily gonna help with that. My opinion. You can go ahead and roll call vote.
Was there any other comments? Okay. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Counselor Cornelius?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
No.
Counselor Salas?
No.
Counselor Coughlin?
No.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Mayor Crawford?
Aye.
Oh, that's all.
Yeah, that's like only second time I've got to vote. Okay, we'll move on now. We'll move back to number 2, item number 2. Excuse me, not number 2, number 4. Which is the appeal of Planning Commission's decision to deny case SP-2020-0289. Jesse Townsend, applicant, 525 Resort Drive, James Townsend, Tract 1A, designation of property to CPUD, commercial planned unit development with site plan and concept approval to include campground with recreational activities within a 5-acre tract. And so we have here today Mr. Townsend, and he has his attorney here present. So go ahead, take over, Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mayor and councilors and Mr. Dodge and Ms. Mendez and other staff members. I've been in communication with Mr. Townsend and his attorney, Liam Griffin, and we have come to an agreement today that will make the appeal as for today probably not necessary. I'm going to work with Mr. Townsend and his attorney. There's just some issues, you know, Mr. Townsend, he has 5-acre lot that is planning and development. There were some issues at planning and zoning that wasn't real clear what his plan was. That's the reason that he asked for this appeal, because it did not get approved there. And I think in conversations with Mr. Griffin and Mr. Townsend himself, if we can work more closely on his application, then those questions will be left or will be answered in such a way that perhaps he can get moving forward with his developing his land or using his land in a way that is in compliance with our ordinance. And so we think that we can accomplish that. If we were to go forward today and Mr. Townsend did not like the result, I don't know what the result might be. Either you would have upheld the denial or approved it. It's not clear. Who knows what would have happened, but his only recourse after that would be to go to district court, which is not good for either party because you'd both be wasting resources to get to eventually a district court would probably just, you know, Mr. Griffin and I have discussed certain legal theories, but the point is Mr. Townsend has property that he would like to use. In order to do so, he has to be in compliance with his ordinances. I think at the point where we are now, I think COVID and other things just led to a lot of miscommunication that I believe, and I believe his attorney agrees with me, that we can overcome the issues that have gotten us to this point and hopefully get to a place where Mr. Townsend can use his property in compliance with village ordinances. So, however, you know, we agreed to vacate this hearing. They want some assurances that, you know, that they will be protected procedurally. So I'd like to ask the mayor and the council and Mr. Dodge if you guys would agree to just to vacate today's appeal and set it for the next public hearing and see where we are there.
For next month?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then hopefully we'll be at a place where Mr. Townsend is satisfied that the process is going forward and that we are satisfied that he's in compliance with our ordinances. So
Okay.
Zach,
Yes, sir.
if we do that, if you make changes, will it have to go back to P and Z before it comes back to us?
Anything, yeah, if they do not go forward with their appeal, which is an appeal of an application. So if we leave here today and I work with Mr. Townsend and Samantha and we develop a new application, that will have to go through the process. And so this vacating the appeal for today, setting it for 30 days from now, the hope is that there will be enough forward movement that Mr. Townsend will be satisfied that because I think, there's been some miscommunication, there's been some hard feelings give rise. So I think just for everybody's trust level with one another, if we can set it for 30 days from now and then work towards some sort of resolution where Mr. Townsend feels like he's being treated fairly and given an opportunity to use his property the way he wants to in compliance with our ordinances. I think, so the answer to your question is no, it's not going to skip any future application won't skip any procedural steps to get to y'all first. Everything will have to be done pursuant to the ordinances.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Zach and I are probably gonna review the land use ordinance, section 54, in a little bit more detail. But we're pretty close to the same reading of it in that, well, I maybe not, I've read it maybe a little bit more and deeply lately, but the idea that we're going after is that because he was PUD designated June 28th, 1988, 54-105 says that he doesn't have to then go back in for a process. He just has to make sure that he designates appropriately between commercial PUD, non-industrial or mixed-use PUD. And I think he wants the commercial. And then there are certain uses that don't require development. So that also the development definition is critical in chapter 54. If he's not really raising the property, improving, digging, making buildings, but he sets up panels for maybe a pony ride, then it's our contention that he doesn't necessarily need that, but he needs business license approval. And that was forwarded when people thought that he needed to rezone. And so the thing fell apart when he went for a license approval. I'm just thinking, if we read this correctly and if we approach it correctly and he approaches his business without development, he can begin doing business right away. That's our hope, that's our desire. But we love the fact that we've got a cooperative dialogue going on, everything else.
Can I ask him a question? Is that fine?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
I understand what you're saying on the PUD, but we do have ordinances and rules on RV parks. I just did one and we presented surveys that met the density and the size requirements. I mean, there's more than one requirement on that.
And if I
At some point, you'll still have to do that, I believe.
Right. And the conversations we've had is that he's gonna have to be in compliance with all of our ordinances and whether or not Liam and I, as we sit here today, agree on what he can start doing tomorrow, we're gonna find that out pretty soon. And then that's one of their safeguards is that we set this, that we vacate it for today, but they're not abandoning their appeal.
So you're saying that he could do a pony ride tomorrow, but.
I'm not saying that.
Okay, he is. But he may not be able to do an RV park without building permits and platinum approvals.
The RV park. I agree. Yeah, the campground might be different, but there's concern about waste disposal facilities. But if it's just a campground, then you don't have to have all the connections. You have to have the parking spaces. You still have to have some parking, but I think we've gone over this well enough that I think you're going to see a commitment from us as well. We're not just asking for a commitment from Zach Reed, the statute or an ordinance, but we're saying we're going to dress up our intent a little bit better. I don't want to use the word application because we believe he's entitled to develop that land now. Excuse me, use the land now, develop later.
Okay.
Well, you've got a sewer line real close if you decide to use it.
He says you got a sewer line close if you decide to use it.
Okay. Is there anything else, Zach?
No, Mayor.
So what do we need to do? Just make a motion to vacate this?
Mayor, I believe it's their request that needs to be for vacation. They're the ones that file
that we grant the vacation?
I believe it's
Zach,
just an action on
if
their
we-
part.
Zach, if they take this hearing, they still have the right to appeal, but is that just till our next scheduled meeting, or can they appeal it at any point in the future?
No, just for the next meeting, for the September meeting.
For the September meeting, okay.
So are we continuing this public hearing until September?
Yes.
Yes, got it.
Okay. So they're asking for a,
Just, Mayor, if I may.
Go right
Zach,
ahead.
Is it a clarification that they're vacating the appeal and requesting a 30-day reservation period on the appeal?
which is,
Or is it just a continuance?
We're gonna continue this public hearing to the September meeting,
That's a lot different than a vacation.
then it would be a continuance. Because of I mean, technically, if you vacate it, are you gonna would you be abandoning the appeal?
yes.
But if we just agree to,
Continue.
the public hearing, then the appeal stays alive until the next meeting.
That's the agreement.
Tim?
Well, then they would just request a continuance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a vacation.
Right.
Yeah, the language we use in court is vacate, and it doesn't make the case go away, it just vacates that particular setting. But continuance is a proper term, we'll use it.
Okay, continuance. Okay, so you're requesting a continuance until the September meeting.
Yes, Mayor, that's what we're asking for. Thank you.
Okay. So we will grant that. Do we need a vote on that, Irma?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the motion is a request to a continuation on this hearing until the regular Village of Ruidoso Council meeting in September. So I need a motion for that and a second, please.
Mayor, I move that we approve the continuance of, where is it?
Item number 4.
And number 4 of case SB 2020-0289, Jesse Townsend at 525 Resort Drive until the September council meeting.
Second.
Okay, that was, of course, Coughlin got in there. There's no further discussion. We'll have a roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Good luck to you. And we'll see you maybe not next month. Yeah, hopefully not. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll move on. Sorry you had to wait so long. We'll get back on course to mayoral reports and presentations. And today we have a retirement plaque for Steve Sanchez, which obviously he's not here anymore. He went on about his business. And so we have a wonderful plaque for Steve Sanchez, and I want to read just a little bit about him. He started with the village in December of 2003, working in the street department as a mechanic for about 3 years, and then transferred to the water department for 1 year and left October 2007. He returned to the village in January 2012 to work in the solid waste department, and then transferred to the wastewater treatment plant in March 2017 to present. He is a great mechanic and holds a level 2 in both water and wastewater, and has worked for many of the village's departments throughout the years. He'll be greatly missed. We have a plaque that says he started this time January 30, 2012 to August 27th, 2020, and it's in appreciation for your years of hard work and dedicated service to the community and the Village of Ruidoso. Enjoy your retirement. So we got a nice plaque, but then we got this little fancy, hope anybody can see it. Just says the Village of Ruidoso, and it's got his name, Steve Sanchez. Thank you for your service. But it's beautiful, and it's got our new brand on it. So we're excited about that. I hope he is too. So we'll move on, and I apologize to Mr. Sanchez for having him wait so long. But if it wasn't for Counselor Coughlin, we could have got to him much sooner.
Now he can retire again. He's been out there so long.
Anyway, now we'll move on to introduction of the new village employee. And as I understand, she is not here at this time, but we have a new employee. And one of the things we started here is we like to meet them. And so hopefully one day soon we'll be able to get everybody in a room. But her name is Selena Soto, and she's a telecommunications officer. And she was hired on August the 3rd of 2020. Ms. Soto moved from Texas and has several years of experience as a telecommunications officer in Crane, Texas, and in Midland, Texas. That's where I moved from. So she's going to love the scenery here. I cannot tell you how much. So anyway, we welcome Ms. Soto and look forward to meeting her in person. On the boards and commissions, don't have any to appoint. I know that we're still short a few, and we'll need to get those vacancies filled pretty quick. We'll now move into the village manager report, and I'll turn that over to Mr. Dodge.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
Let's start off with a good afternoon.
Yeah, you do.
It's been
whether it's been or not.
It's been a long afternoon. It's been a good afternoon. Good meeting so far. We're getting some things moving. You know, Mayor, at the workshop meeting, I'd informed council that we were working on the COVID aid relief economic securities application. And, you know, the governor announced a couple of weeks ago with very short notice that there was $100 million for local governments. It's not a revenue replacement grant, but it is available for impacts related to COVID. In addition to that, there was a $50 million amount that was appropriated for small businesses to, you know, help small businesses continue or to modify the way that they operate. So there's two parts to the grant application. I just wanted to share a few things with you, Mayor and Council. You know, as part of the application, we conducted some industry impact reports, and you know, we actually broke down the industries, and you know, developed an analysis of how they were impacted. And you know, what was surprising to me is that, you know, your retail activities and wholesale activities had a positive impact. They increased business over the 4-year period or 4-month period starting since March in comparison to previous years. The real estate and then construction was also up. You know, those were the two sectors that were up. When we look at real estate was slightly up, but for the first 3 months of the COVID, they're actually down, and then they started to recover, and they've done extremely well in the months of June and July. But you know, even in May, they were down a bit. I talked to a couple of the realtors. They kind of concur with that you know, at first they did get impacted, but then it started to raise quite fast. Arts and recreation, or entertainment and recreation, was about 120% down. That industry, you know, normally is right about $1 million industry for that reporting period, and you know, the reductions was substantial, and you know, most of those recreational activities were closed down for the duration of that study period. Accommodations and food services, you know, that's where your restaurants are. It was almost a $6 million impact to that industry in that reporting period. So that showed right about a 63% decrease. And then you had your others, which represent about 213 of your businesses, is showing or tracking right about an 87% decrease on all your other non-classified tech businesses. You know, overall, Mayor, we estimated the gross receipts tax impact to be right about, for that reporting period, we saw a decline of, I lost my sheets over here.
Of about 17 or 10%.
Oops, no, there. On the gross receipts tax, what I did is I went back, Mayor, we had in September, the one, lump sum payment
Right.
as a result of the wrong classification of one of our reporting entities. And that was a 36-month look back. So what I did is I had calculated the months after that were trending right about 18.58%. So I went back and applied that, the 18.5% to each of the reporting months and comparable months from the previous year. And we're estimating that the COVID impact for the reporting months came out to $477,000. If we just do a straight comparison without making that adjustment, it looks like we increased 10%, but that's incorrect. We actually, when you add in the 18% on top of, what was the actual reporting from previous years, we're actually impacted 11.94%, which shows that there was an impact to our trend that was occurring.
Okay.
Lodgers tax, when I look at the lodgers tax reports, the lodgers tax in March activity, April remittance dropped about 46,000. The May report, the April to May remittance dropped 101. That was the biggest impact month that we had. May activity to June, 65,000 negative. And June activity to July was 16,000 negative. So the total impact that I'm calculating on the lodgers tax for the 4 months reporting was equal to about 230,000, which is an industry impact of 4,600,000.
What's the multiplier on that?
20%.
20%.
Yeah. The lodgers tax is representative of 5%. So if that's 5%, there's 25s and 100. So it comes out to, 20% is 4.6 million. That's the way, the kind of the way I've calculated that impact. When we look at this grant application, as I mentioned earlier, Mayor, it's not a revenue replacement, but there's a couple of different factors that they want to look at when they're tracking this information, and it was impact to industries. So based upon our analysis on the impact to industries is how we're establishing the grant program so that we can, identify the businesses that have been heavily impacted and work that into the criteria as we start to put together the grant process. They had informed us that we would be notified 10 days after the application was due. The application went in last Friday, so they should be notifying us.
17th?
Yes, the 17th. And then that way, by the 17th, when we know whether we're awarded or not, we'll be able to start making or sending out information to the businesses and asking them to apply in the two strategies that are identified. On our grant application for businesses, Ron worked pretty heavily on that part. And what we established is that we're going to be requesting $2 million just out of the $50 million for small businesses and the small business grant of $20,000 per business. And again, that could be used for redesign of their business or, changing or modifying the way that they operate their business. It could also be used for non-employer or non-owner salaries, insurances, and utilities, mortgage payments, and things of that nature.
How are we gonna reach out to what businesses?
Mayor, we're gonna put the criteria together. It's basically following the guidance that came out of the act. So we made our plan is pretty much consistent with what was released by the state and the federal programs. And our recommendation is to establish a committee that would, would make a recommendation to you, Mayor, on that committee. That committee would review the applications and award the applications based upon need and how they're able to demonstrate and apply.
Okay.
The next part of it, Mayor, was a bigger portion of it. We're able to well, just on the gross receipts tax revenue, Mayor, we also projected out, if we continue to trend with the impacts that we're seeing from August to December, we would have an additional approximately $600,000 impact. And then we would have a total impact in the months that were called out in the grant from March till December of a total of, and this is just gross receipts tax, a total of $1,074,000. One of the good things that I just want to point out is when we're building our budget, we never worked in the 18% trending increase into our reoccurring expenditures. So that gives us a little bit of cushion. It gives me a little bit of, safety to kind of fall back where we hadn't committed those dollars moving into the future.
Right.
So we still, if I remember right, we used 60% of last year's gross receipts to budget with.
That's correct.
Are we still all right on that?
Yes, Council.
Yeah, so far.
We've actually, when you look at the expenditures and if you think back to the quarterly report that Judy reported a couple of weeks ago, our expenditures were actually down from projected. So, not only are we doing better on the revenue side than we had projected, we're doing better on the expenditure side as well.
Right.
On the application merit on the village impact, we projected right about or applied for 1.5 million or 5.1 million. That's representative of our expenditures that we had in relation to COVID expenditures that came out to right about 186,000. That's for the tents, for the overtime, for Ruidoso Safe. We passed out over, Ruidoso Safe has passed out over 40,000 bags that they provided to people out on the streets and PPE to different people that needed it. So, that's a tremendous amount of bags. I think Santa Fe in one of the mayor's council's meeting was reporting that or I should say they're boasting that they passed out 20,000. So we've doubled what Santa Fe has done in those efforts. On the expenditure side, we also included any leave that was taken in relation to COVID, overtime in relation to COVID, people going out and working. We also included, we found this out at the last minute. There was the mayor's council or caucus meeting had been canceled, and then they rescheduled it. So it was a mix up on our schedule. But late Thursday night, I received a call from AJ from the Municipal League, and he said, we had a caucus meeting this afternoon, and we noticed you weren't on it. But the Deborah, the Secretary of Romero, reported that they were going to allow any expenditures from the call-out period from March till December, any expenditures related to personnel for fire, police, and emergency services. So we took our grant application from approximately 600,000 up to $5 million. We went back and calculated those expenditures. And the call-out didn't say that they had to be specifically for those emergency services that were related directly to it. It just called out those expenditures. So we ended up increasing our grant application. The total grant application is just over $7 million.
7.1, whatever.
Yes. Just putting together the application, we documented very well since the get-go all expenditures and efforts going back to March as related to COVID. We're able to establish all the time periods, time frames of 10 executive orders that were issued by the mayor and demonstrate on how we were able to, mirror the actions taken by the state to help impact and to mitigate the spread of COVID. So, it's been a tremendous amount of activity. A lot of the staff has done a great job at tracking their expenditures and their efforts in relation to this, and I believe it's going to put us in a good position to receive some money. We're able to demonstrate how we were using public outreach and educational campaign to actually help and not take a hard stand on enforcement, but to be able to engage the public to gain enforcement. And, so that's what we tried to demonstrate in this process. Some of the expenditures that we also captured, our public information officer, team tourism, they really changed their strategies, even the chamber, from tourist-related promotion to really promoting COVID-safe practices. So, that whole political campaign, not political, but that whole marketing campaign were eligible expenditures for this grant as well. So, we worked, I believe, staff hours, almost every department director and several staff were involved with helping put together this application. And we calculated that there was over 200 staff hours that went into putting this application together. So, Mayor, I'll stand for any questions if there's any questions on the CARES grant application.
I think you guys did a great job, and they did work hard on it to get it done. And we were way ahead of almost everybody else. I think everybody else, because they've been tracking our costs from day one. Does anybody have any questions of the manager?
In relation to COVID, we still got a couple more.
Yeah, up to the CARES Act. Nope. Okay, move on.
Mayor, the next, the village, Ruidoso Village Hall remodel update. I'm going to go ahead and let Ron handle that one. So Ron, if you don't mind covering that.
All righty, Mayor Crawford and members of the council, the project final design has been completed. We did provide final comment, the plan set, White Sands Construction that sent out for bid for all the subs. That was all done on August 6th. They're due back end of August. Our plan is to have this project presented to the construction phase of it, presented to the council at the September council meeting. Hopefully we'll have a good on that and be able to move forward with all the work. With all the additional office spaces, we're looking at expanding new office spaces, a new bathroom here in the executive offices suite. The existing bathrooms would be demoed and made into storage rooms. We also have the new IT server room will go upstairs where the old boiler room's at, the old water heater, and then we'll add some additional storage areas there. As you walk towards the P&Z area, there'll be some additional storage in addition to the office space in that area also. We also be modifying the entrance to the water bill. It'll be coming in where Judy has her finance director's office in that area, and where Troy is currently housed in that section there. So we're excited with this new project and all the changes. Just looking back at the very beginning, and our plan was to put a one-stop shop in the planning and zoning area. And then the COVID hit, so we've had to modify our operations, which have incorporated in this architectural design. We feel it's going to be more efficient. We just had a new drive-up window that was replaced here, a nice commercial one in our existing area there. It has a little microphone, and I mean, it is fancy. So we're just excited to move forward with this project, and I'll stand for any additional questions. We're looking at issuing the PO if it goes well at the council meeting in September. Issue the PO, begin construction late September, October, possibly finishing in late spring, April timeframe, May, and that would take us into being able to have our new building and our new expansion completed. So.
All right. Any questions? I was just happy that they did move the restroom away from the mayor's office.
Mayor Crawford, I was gonna mention that, but I thought I'd leave that portion on there, so.
Yeah.
Trying to have a plated urinal just for you.
Yeah, well, it was like, right behind the mayor's desk was gonna be the bathrooms, so I could just imagine all those big level meetings that we have in there, and the flushing and the fans running and everything, so.
It was one of those waterless ones, Mayor, that
It was.
just had like a real loud suction noise.
Okay, any other things you need to go over there, Manager Dodge?
Mayor, just the last part is, on the Close Road Bridge, we have had a conversation with Zia and the contractor, Ryan Roper. They were in discussions with the subcontractor that actually built the Gabion baskets. Karen has some communications that she wants to share with us in regards to that. So Karen, if you can go ahead and give an update on Close Road. I'm pleased on the reaction that we're receiving. I'm not pleased on the failure, but the reaction from Roper and Zia has been pretty positive. So Karen. Karen, are you there?
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. Happy late afternoon. Yes, we'll update you on the Close Road Bridge project. Zia Engineering did reach out to us after we had engaged with them about how they were going to handle the Gabion basket failure. They have hired a geotech engineer that's going to come out to the job site and do an investigation and find out what it is they need to do or prepare for to rectify the problem. Zia is working with Roper Construction on the approach and the costs for the potential fix. So they're right now what they're going to do is start drawing up the conceptual design so that Ryan Roper can cost it out. And then as soon as the geotech investigation is done, they'll update the design and get back with us with a schedule and what they propose to the village, their plan to fix the failure. The engineering and Ryan Roper did discuss and are going to be paying for the repairs. So the village will not have to endure or incur any of those expenses. So as of right now, we're just waiting for that investigation to get done and for Zia to present us a proposal for what they're going to do to rectify it.
Okay.
Have you clear the concerns?
No, but I think that's a good update. It seems like responsibility is being taken.
Yes, sir. I believe our manager had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I know he did. Okay, and he wants you to remember that for the closed session conversation. So, anything else, Manager?
That's it.
Okay, now we'll move on to reports from municipal officials, and I'd like to start with Mr. Cornelius.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Well, there's been a lot going on. We seem to be making everybody mad these days.
Yes.
That's all right. But I just wanted to thank Judy and the administration here for their responsibility. We've been able, in spite of all this, to continue the projects that we wanted to do with the Wingfield House and the purchase of the land, workforce housing that may or may not work, but it's nice to know that they did save all that money and that we're able to continue with our plans. So thank you guys. That's it.
I agree with you 100%. Okay, we'll move on to Councilor Jackson.
I'll pass my
Mr. Mayor, in the interest of time, I'll pass my comments.
Okay, Counselor Letterman?
Just very quickly, I just wanted to give a kudos to our radio station every morning at 8 a.m. and especially the mayor's report with the manager and Ron Sina, and then Karen Gutierrez was on. She did a great job. So those are very, very good. I learned something every time I listen to it. So hopefully everybody will start tuning in.
Awesome. Well, we're working on a little marketing for that and trying to fine tune those programs, but I appreciate you. You are our star and probably only listener at this point. So thank you. Okay. How about Mayor Pro Tem Rafael Salas?
Yes. Yes, Mayor, thank you. It took me a while to figure out the mute and unmute on the Zoom, so I didn't get to chime in as much. One statement I would like to say, and I'm glad that we kind of postponed the Midtown street diet, whatever that is. That Jennifer Brewer called me, and there was a lot of people on Real Street that were wanting it to oppose it or are opposing it. So I'm glad that we're going to do that community outreach and try and get to all those people there. So, and in the essence of time, I'll just make one comment, Mayor. And as a ordained minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ, I will be glad to dedicate meeting room 4 and 5 of the convention center to be a place of worship for the conducting of the Village of Ruidoso official business. We could all sit at our own table that would be 8 feet apart and have plenty of spacing for all the staff and maybe some citizens, and we could have our business there, because as we always run into technical difficulties, and I'm probably some of those reasons of noise and stuff, that we finally get in a place to conduct our meetings. I would really like to investigate that option.
Okay, we will make sure that we look into that. Because I know we've got good internet over there, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that, it's big enough. We don't have anything booked there till 21 as I looked on the schedule. So at least for the next meeting for the rest of the year, and even P&Z meetings or committee meetings, that's something that we ought to really, really push for. Get us back together. I miss seeing Tim Coughlin, so we were just talking earlier. We haven't seen each other in a long time.
Well, I saw him yesterday and today. You ain't missing much. But so.
Well, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thank you very much. How about Councilor Eby?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to give a presentation for all the village and the staff administration and you, Mayor. And in the interest of time, I will surrender the remainder of my 10 minutes to Councilor Coughlin.
There you go. Okay, it's your turn, boy. Councilor Coughlin.
Well, I'm starting to lose my voice, so I think I'll save it for the next meeting.
All right.
I'm reclaiming my time.
You're reclaiming my time. That's right.
Come on, get him some water.
Yeah. Okay, so we will move on. Let me check the agenda, make sure I'm not skipping anything. I think that we've pretty much got that. So now then we'll be moving into closed session. Need a motion from our wordsmith, to move us into closed session, please.
Mr. Mayor Jackson, I move that we move into closed session for discussion of limited personnel matters concerning the village manager, statute 1015-1H2, New Mexico Statutory Authority of 1978. Any act taken as a result of the closed session will be brought back into open session.
Second.
Okay, we had Cornelius that hit the second button first. I mean, Coughlin, I'm sorry. What am I calling you Cornelius for? It's, I don't know. Anyway, it was Captain Cornelius over here.
Thank you, Mayor.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Cornelius,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Now we'll move into closed session. So if you're watching, we will be back here. I don't think this will take too much, but we'd like to say goodbye